All right, guys. So we are here today. Something is up with this monitor like that, man. Usually this thing works fine. It's like in safe mode or something weird. Looks like I'm only gonna have 3 monitors today, which is fine. Hope you guys are doing good today. Let me see. Display. Let me know if you could see me or hear me. That's what it is. Okay, I got it. 1, 3. I think that should fix it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm going to get some music playing too. I don't know what is up with that one. That's strange. Let me get... I know, guys, I'm late. Listen. It's Nvidia earnings day. Honestly, it's a ridiculously large day today. It's honestly absolutely huge. Weird. Alright, something happened to this monitor, dude. This monitor looks weird. It's alright. Alright, guys, so we're going to get a poll first things first. This is like the Super Bowl of the stock market, really. It really is. This is like the biggest event the stock market's had really all year. All right, we got toss up. I'll get some music playing here too. What? Bigger than the next rate cut? Maybe not bigger than that, but I don't know. Just in terms of like how many people watch my channel, it's going to be competitive with it for sure. Like again, rate cuts are important, but rate cuts are important, but this is still like a really huge market event, like powerfully huge, right? Last time we had 10,000 viewers, just to show you. Let me know if you can hear the music. Yeah, so like we've had contractors here. I was actually going to start it a little bit earlier. But like, so we woke up this morning and my whole house has this massive freaking leak, dude. This huge freaking leak. I don't even know what it is. Why is my monitor looking like that? And like the floor, it was wet in our bedroom closet, which was just, it's strange, right? And so we had a plumber out here. My dogs freaked out, of course, like they do. Let me fix this. But yeah, this is Q2 earnings. Massive report, honestly. Make sure we're monetized, which we are. It comes out in about an hour. We'll put a timer up. Yeah, we'll put what they're expecting up on screen too. I know they're expecting. Thank you, baby. I appreciate it. Thank you. Love you. Yeah, so they are expecting 65 cents is what I'm showing. Honestly, I thought they updated it to like 69 cents. Originally, it was what, 60 to 64 cents a share, and now it's 65 cents a share. So I think they might have updated it. On revenue of, their revenue expectations are why is this monitor zoomed in, dude? Their revenue expectation is 28.24 billion. Do they beat or miss? Honestly, look at the SPY jump here, though. Look at the SPY jump. Nvidia bouncing all the way back. Had a pretty red open. It was pretty quiet at first, and now the volatility is just up. What have I done? There we go. Yeah, I'll just leave it alone. Only one of my monitors is zoomed in. I need new friends. Yeah, you'll be looking for a long time for those friends. I have so much money riding on Nvidia, man, this quarter. This every quarter wait sucks. Chewy did amazing today, too. Yeah, Chewy did have great earnings, right? Chewy earnings came in better than expected for EPS. Their revenue missed, but they had good guidance from my understanding, right? And they pumped up today. They went all the way up to $30 plus a share. Let me get a timer here. I got you guys. Hold on. We got like, what, 56 and a half minutes? Yep. We got the timer up. Markets bounce back. I'm trying to see if there's a reason for it. Supreme Court declines the debt relief program. Meta exploring developing new mixed reality device for 2027, according to the information. Meta thinks smaller form factor could draw new users, and project is favored over pricey headset. Meta recently axed from roadmap. So yeah, Meta was on the way of producing a higher quality headset, right? It was going to be, but they couldn't figure out how to get it under $1,000 a piece, and so they just scrapped it recently. Like a few days ago, they announced scrapping it. Yeah, Nvidia just pumped up, guys. It's at 126s now. Was already at 124s, 123s earlier. Yeah, Jensen's my cousin. Yeah. All right, we're gonna do a poll here, guys. Beat, miss, as expected, and then I don't know /C results. Yeah, let me know if you're bullish or bearish on this report. 104, that's a big drop. Yeah, hit the like button on the stream. We appreciate it. Again, this is like the stock market Super Bowl. It really is. Honestly, it really is. My wife made me some coffee. Would throw so many people off. I don't know, man. Let me know if you guys think we're extended on the downside or not. I'm sorry, guys. This is supposed to be... I gotta mute this music. Honestly, bro, they throw this song out here. None of the other songs curse. This is supposed to be instrumentals. And I don't know if they call that an instrumental or what. But, my apologies, guys. I usually don't play curse, you know. But it's all good. Everybody always says it leaked. But they're never right. Honestly, they would probably accidentally get it right at this point, and they're still wrong. And so anybody that says it leaks or it leaked and that they know the results and it did really good or really bad are usually trying to influence their option positions that they're holding ahead of this report. So, yeah, I think they might miss and still drop, but I don't know. I hope not. Look at this decrease here. So the SPY is basically following Nvidia to a T right now, to an absolute T. Look at this. It's literally doing the exact same thing. And again, don't get it twisted. This is an absolutely huge report. This is an absolutely huge report. All right, chat. So again, let's take a look at Nvidia's EPS graph, right? So we looked at these earlier. So here's Nvidia's EPS graph from Macro Trends, the website. Okay, when we look at this, one thing that you'll see is that a lot of people argue that Nvidia is overpriced. You know, and maybe that's true. I don't know. I like Nvidia. I've held it through most of this year, and their exponential growth is there, right? Like you can see their exponential growth. Again, a lot of people argue that they're extended on the upside. And to be fair, you know, the PE ratio is pretty up there. It's like 70 or something. But when you look at their margins specifically, they've increased a lot on this big AI run that we've seen over the last few years. So we've had big exponential price movement in terms of income specifically, right? Because income is what you want to use to gauge whether the moves that Nvidia has made over the past year or 2 years really have been justifiable. If we look at a revenue graph for Nvidia, we can kind of see an even more powerful argument for their value. Now, you know, Nvidia is the stock to watch. Everybody's paying attention to it. It is, again, the stock to watch. But look at their revenue graph. You know, the AI boom really kicked off here, right? Like right around 2023 is when people started really paying attention to AI. I had actually mentioned AI to a lot of different people, and they kind of like discounted what I said and didn't pay that much attention to it. But, you know, AI really is that thing, man. It really is that thing. It causes exponential increases in production, and it's just a powerful thing that I think is really useful for coding, programming. And I think the way you have to look at AI systems, you know, here's their revenue graph. And so again, their revenue has followed Nvidia up with the price per share. Hey, hold on, sorry. Contractors here.
No worries.
Yeah, so Nvidia had an exponential growth in share price as well, right? So what we see here is we see a crazy growth in share price. But we also see a crazy growth in revenue. You know, their revenue expected today is expected to come in. The last one was 26, I think. Oh my gosh, bro. This is supposed to be instrumentals. And they keep rapping on it. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, today is the day. But the point is, today they're expecting 28.24 billion. So they've been increasing by about 2 billion or more, 2 to 4 billion every quarter during this massive stage of growth, right? And revenue is really what you want to pay attention to. Revenue is how much they make. Now, you can always tweak it, lose more, make more margin-wise, but revenue is the thing. Yeah, Supermicro Semiconductors is been dumping huge amounts, right? Supermicro Semiconductors down 20+% after Hindenburg's short report yesterday dropped and tanked it down to 500. So Hindenburg actually down, or no, I'm sorry, Supermicro is actually down much more than that. So Supermicro was almost at $600 a share. Yeah, over $600 a share 2 days ago. It has now dropped, and you can kind of see, like, if we pull up Supermicro, right? If you want to see how big money works, okay? Like think about it like this, right? Here's where the short report came out, right? So this is where the short report came out for Supermicro Semiconductors. Look at the massive drops we had the day prior to that. What do you think this drop was the day prior? Look at this big dump the day prior. Why do you think that is, right? That's the big money that's going to profit from the short report taking their positions. You know, or if they heard something, they're getting out and protecting themselves. And so that's where they're making their money. That's where they're getting in, and that's pressuring it down. And then the short report drops yesterday, dumps it down, and then continued negative sentiment for Supermicro. Again, it was just up so much, low float stock, crazy big movement. Yeah. I had any questions asked Jensen, it would be what goes through your mind knowing that your company can literally make or break the stock market every earnings season. That's got to be a lot of pressure. Are we going to see a dump on Nvidia? The question is, if it does dump, are you buying it up? Right, 28 billion from 22 is insane. That's 30% from one quarter to another. WTF? Right, 100%, man. It's absolutely ridiculous gains, right? And it's been powering the stock market, but it's also putting the market at risk for. And I'm an Nvidia bull. I think Nvidia is powering AI, and I think AI is that next big thing. But the internet was that big thing in 2000, and we saw what happened. That was the longest bear market we've had in decades prior. So, sometimes it doesn't matter. But I think AI is here to stay. I think people are using it. I think we're going to use it in every facet of our life in the next decade through driving, computers, obviously, production, coding, learning, art, and everything in between, right? I think it's going to impact every single niche of the world, sector of the world, I think. In one way or another. And so Bloomberg interview with Nvidia, I assume good earnings if it's willing to interview. Yeah, maybe. That's not always necessarily the case, but it can be, All right, I'm looking at our polls that we got here. So we got hundreds of votes already. And we only started up about 10 minutes ago. All right, so again, Nvidia craziness. Now we're gonna do a Twitter post we haven't done in a while. You can follow me on Twitter at Beginner Trades. Ready for that dip? I think the one key difference between 2000 and today is that the infrastructure surrounding the internet didn't really exist for consumers in 2000. PCs were expensive, and a lot of families didn't have one. Right, but I think the way you have to look at it, Jay, is now each family has multiple 100%, but I think you also have to look at it in terms of this with AI, right? What do you think the percentage is of everybody that uses AI on a daily basis? Right? What do you think that percentage is? Even not even a daily, I would say on a weekly basis. I know I personally use it every single day, almost every single day. I probably use AI 5 days of the week at least, sometimes more. So I know I personally use them every single day like clockwork because it's so powerful as a querying device, right? I can query anything I need to know, anything I want to know. It's like having the most powerful personal assistant in the world at your fingertips that you can ask anything and it'll answer it. Now, it's not perfect. It does get things wrong. And so you have to do your due diligence and learn how to, you got to learn what kind of language works for it. But regardless, it's a powerful thing. And I think it's going to get better and better and grow exponentially over the next decade. But I would say the amount of people that use it regularly, like that use Nvidia, that use AI regularly, I would go with probably 30% of people in the world right now use AI regularly, I would say. But I think over the next decade, that number is going to increase to 80, 90% plus, right? And I think over the next decade, a lot of people are going to start, it's going to be inevitable. They're going to have to use it if they're going to want to keep up with technology and work and employment and business and art and, social media, whatever you want to, marketing. You're going to have to use it. And you got to use it now to a certain point. Right, if you search on Google now, you're using Gemini, and it's powerful too. It helps. It makes it a lot easier. Yeah, this is big, guys. All right, so let's see. All right, so Nvidia. They say the most accurate estimate is 65 cents a share. Consensus is 64. It had a surprise of almost 11.5% last quarter. All right, so it's seen a surprise of almost 11.5% last quarter. And so, yeah, last time it did really well. But I don't think it actually reacted positively to it, too. Pays a 4-cent dividend, not the best. Forward PE is 47, so the forward PE is looking a little bit better versus historical PE, which I think is about 70 right now, if I have to check. They're saying strong chip demand for data centers is going to aid Nvidia for Q2 earnings. Earnings are expected to grow. Expected to deliver a year-over-year increase in earnings on higher revenues when it reports results. It's widely known consensus outlook gives a good sense of their earnings. Yeah. It's expected to post quarterly earnings of about 65 cents a share. Like I said, it represents a year-over-year change of 133%. And so, again, when you calculate how much they're growing, not just quarter to quarter, but year to year, it's a ridiculous amount of growth. And the EPS has been revised, I believe, as well, up 10% from a few weeks ago also. So, and again, Nvidia is kind of flat as I thought it would be. It actually went down a lot. Are strangles on the SPY a potential play here? Maybe. I mean, do what you got to do. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's going to be a crowded trade. Implied volatility is going to be really high. That's how it goes during big earnings like today, but that's okay. 30% maybe if you only count 16 to 30-year-olds in Western culture. No, I think it's about 30%. Maybe. It depends, right? If you think people overseas, if you think people in India aren't using AI, if you think people overseas are not using AI, again, I think you're underestimating it. I think it's normal to fear technology, especially if you're older, right? Older people feared the automobile when it came out in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's really when it came out. People feared it. People feared the internet when it came out. They famously told Jeff Bezos, hey, nobody's ever going to buy your stuff online like that. And he got the last laugh, a couple decades later. Now he's one of the richest people in the world from it. And so I think it's human nature for the older population, specifically 50 years old plus. I think sometimes people 50 years old, 60 years old, they can understand it. But I think over that age, they just start to fear it because it's something that they don't understand. I don't know if sci-fi culture has helped the fear of technology either very much, but yeah, I think in a couple decades everybody's going to use it regardless of what the percentages of people that use it now are. I can ask AI itself what the answer to that question is, how many people actually use it in that way. Let me try. What percentage of the world uses AI currently on a regular basis? Let's see if it can answer its own question. All right, so we got almost 100 votes already in about 6 minutes. 75% say bull for Nvidia. 25% are bearish on Nvidia. If you want to follow me, again, I'm at Beginner Trades on Twitter. Estimating the percentage of global population that regularly uses AI is challenging due to the diverse way it's integrated into our daily life. Global internet users, as of 2024, there are 5 billion internet users globally. Many of them interact with AI-driven applications daily, such as search engines, social media, and virtual assistants like Siri and Alexa, right? And so I think it's much, like, I think 30% is probably a conservative amount, a number, versus, like, when we're specifically talking about how many people use AI regularly throughout the world. I think 30% is pretty conservative. You know, you got to think Siri, you got to think Google now. If you use Google and you Google anything, it's using AI, and you can see it use AI. E-commerce uses it, social media uses it, smartphones have it integrated into them now. So again, I think 30%. I think it's probably higher than that, really. Changed my mind. Think the figures will be lower than expected. Maybe. Berkshire hit 1 trillion. Market cap, therefore we rocketing past. Yeah, I think if you want the market to go up, you want Nvidia to beat today. Yeah. AI is not just ChatGPT. Right, and that's what a lot of people have to understand. You know. Those Model Ts are scary. Yeah, they're pretty scary. Yeah, we'll see. Again, we got about hundreds of votes already in terms of does Nvidia beat yeah, 100% Thomas. I'm shorting. Yeah, good luck, OD. Fu, I want to see the SPY at all-time highs tomorrow. The SPY is probably the index fund that's the closest to breaking. The SPY is not really an index fund, but the SPY is a leveraged ETF based around the S&P 500 index fund. It's probably the closest. All-time highs are not really unreasonable up here at 565s on the SPY. And so if Nvidia pumps today, yeah. The SPY could certainly break all-time highs, right? That's very, very possible. Just be ready today, guys. It's a massive day. So TikTok's parent company is now worth $220 billion. Google says 700 million people will be using AI by 2030. That's less than 10% of the world's population. You overestimating how many people in the world actually have access to tech, yet alone AI. I mean, I don't know. It's a, I asked AI and it said considering automotives, right? People who use it for automotives, e-commerce, people that use e-commerce that has AI integrated into it. Social media obviously has AI integrated into it. Smartphones and global internet users. It says a rough estimate could be that over 60 to 70% of the global population interacts with AI in some form on a regular basis. It includes people who might not be consciously aware of this, but that's because it's seamlessly integrated into everything, at this point in time. And so I think even really poverty-heavy countries and continents across the world have access to smartphones a lot of the time, Like an example of this is, easy way to look at it, is what percentage of the world has and uses smartphones, right? It's estimated that 6.4 billion people globally use smartphones regularly. All right. And so again, that's a very easy way to look at it. It's over 50% of people that use AI in one way or another. A nice OD. MACD curling. You think it'll rise? I have no idea. I really genuinely don't know. Yeah, we're going to cover the full report when it comes out, as well as Salesforce drops today, guys. So not only do we have Nvidia, we have CrowdStrike with a really interesting report. We have Salesforce, Affirm, NetApp, and a bunch of other ones. But yeah, the big boy is going to be Nvidia, of course. But we're going to cover all of them for sure. And then we're going to stream the entire Nvidia earnings call live as it happens as well. So we'll cover it. I heard the earnings call is going to be as important. I heard the earnings call is going to be as important as the earnings call themselves. Yeah, it's possible. Guidance will be key too. How much volatility do you think you'll have into the close? If they beat earnings, I'm going to boom all over my screen. Do the numbers drop at the bell? It's hard to tell. Again, so technically the earnings are scheduled to drop 20 minutes after the close. And so, we'll see. We'll see. About every dip, you have to see that not even 700 million people use AI right now. Doesn't mean anything bad for the market. It's quite the contrary because it says that. Yeah, I think you're probably talking, V, about Chat GPT, brother. Right? Like, okay. Here's a really easy way to put it. Anybody that uses Google is using AI, right? What percentage of the world uses Google? 4.3 billion people use Google globally. That's 53 to 54% of the world, right? If you Google anything right now, they're using Gemini, an AI system, to query those results for you. And so by that logic, 50+% of the world's already using AI. It depends on how you look at it. If we're talking about the amount of people specifically that use Chat GPT for a really specific thing, then that's obviously much different. But we're just talking about people who are benefiting from AI regularly, because that's really the way you got to look at it. And I think it's up there. My first name is John. Yeah, it's a massive report, guys. So we got a poll right now, and the poll just asks, does Nvidia beat or miss their Q2 earnings? I should have committed to shorting Supermicro semiconductors. I mean, that's a risky thing too. I think when you grow as a trader, you stop having to take advantage of everything that makes a big move, right? And I think with Supermicro, I'm not a big fan of shorting the healthiest companies in the world. I'm not really saying Supermicro is in that mix, but it's definitely something that has gone up so much. I don't want to get massive losses from it just ripping in my face, it's just too risky. Last name is Van Dam. Honestly, my ears hurt, bro. I feel like I'm getting cauliflower ear. It's very close. Like, I don't have it, and my ears are still fine, but my ears hurt every day. Like I went to jiu-jitsu today, and I could feel it. I got the magnets that I put on it, and I do not want freaking cauliflower ear, So I see a Matthew Carpenter. I know a Matthew Carpenter from Baton Rouge. And you got a Breeze picture. It might be the same one, dude. If it is, what's up, man? Hope you're doing good, dude. 135 before the close. I don't know, man. I think extension plays a big factor with these. And so if it has like some type of big move, I'm worried it's going to go down. I don't want it to go down. I hope it goes up. Yeah, I got one of those weird little wrestling head masks. But honestly, it's harder to roll in those things, man. It really is. Like, the real problem is not, it doesn't really affect rolling in any significant way unless you have it on too tight. But I can't hear anything. And you'd be surprised, like rolling, like sparring in jiu-jitsu, sound is important for whatever reason. It throws off my balance wearing it, So I usually just don't wear it, but I probably should. Obviously would have chosen the John's cool option. I know I didn't. I chose not to do that one today, Yeah. My wife definitely doesn't want me to get cauliflower ear. I mean, I'll look tough. Top 3 toughest in the world, they say, but I definitely don't want it. People say I look like Forrest Griffin. I'm really gonna look like Forrest Griffin if I get cauliflower ear. But hey. Yeah, so it really is gonna be dropping. It's technically scheduled for 420. Everybody's favorite number, But I don't know, man. Again, earnings are weird. They can release earnings whenever they want to release them. They don't have to release them at the specific time frame. Nvidia actually sometimes releases them a little bit late as well, right? AI is getting started. Right, like people have to understand, whatever you think AI does right now, and you might like AI, like I use AI to program stuff. Like I know JavaScript and React Native, and I do some mobile development stuff, right? But and AI will mostly spit out spaghetti code right now. But you have to think about how better it's going to get in a decade from now. In a decade from now, they're going to make it much more efficient, much better, much smarter. It's going to start producing much higher quality coding, like programming, and that is going to cause a massive exponential growth in technology over the next decade, without question, if it continues on this path. So you can't look at AI like only what it does now, because we're still in the early few years. They've had like stuff like there's one called, I think it was called Jamari. It used to write, like it would write for you. It would write, like if you wanted to write something, you could say, hey, give me a 500-word article on Nvidia, and it would spit it out. But at this point, it's evolved much past that, and it's going to get better and better, especially with all the big money that's flowed into it. I usually do bodybuilding, push, pull legs, but thinking of combat sports now. Jiu-jitsu is really fun. Like, listen, I'm a big MMA fan, and I love freaking video games. And like sparring with somebody in jiu-jitsu is the closest you can come to playing a freaking video game in real life. It's so much fun. You gotta like to compete though, and it'll put you in shape. But it's so much fun. It really is. You just got, it's gonna suck in the beginning. You're gonna get beat up, and you can't get your pride in the way. You're just gonna have to tap. But after you get through the first like hurdle of like the first 3 months, it's really, really fun. Really, really fun. As long as you got like a good gym. I go to one of the Gracie gyms where I live. And, it's like a little gym family. It's cool. Not just spaghetti code, but yeah, no, honestly, I've built some really good algorithms. Like, look, so I'm going to put this up. I really haven't looked at it today, but there's a couple algorithms that I've built that are genuinely pretty accurate. Let me see. Look. Again, I haven't looked at this today, so I still gotta like tweak it a little bit. But if you find it during the opening bell, it does pretty good at like picking up the bottom. It's definitely got over 50%, I would say, but maybe not. This one's wrong. This one's right. Look at that. We called the bottom here. Nice little follow through bounce. It'll give you a bull emoji if it works. It might work better on a 5-minute chart, but look, yeah. So look, it calls the top, calls the bottom. And again, I've produced a lot of these like with my own logic and programming. Like, yeah, look at this. Literally called almost the exact bottom. Literally called almost the exact top. And so it can get to a point where you can find a lot of edge in trading using AI. I'm using, mostly to build these, I'm using GPT-4o, right? And GPT-4o is very, very good. Very, very good. It's much better than the older versions of it. And so, yeah. Do you recommend training with a gi or no gi? Personally, I love no gi, right? And I'm much better at no gi. Like I have a lot, like I use my speed a lot. People have different styles. Some people will like cook you, like they're like slow and methodical, and they'll just kind of crush you. I use my speed, and I change positions a lot and catch you off guard and do stuff. And so in that regard, no gi's much better for that because it's a lot more slippery and harder to control people. And so if you're fast, you can kind of maneuver around. It's fun, but everybody's different. Gi, if I roll against like a high blue belt or a purple belt in a gi, I'm almost certainly getting beat up. And so there's a lot less learning curve in no gi just because it's a lot slippier, harder to submit people. Yeah, it definitely makes mistakes. All right, guys. So yeah, look at Nvidia at 126. We got about 1,000 people here watching live. Still got almost an hour. Yeah, ask yourself, is AI code helper worth $20 a month? Yes. And GPT-4o is $20 a month. 100% worth it. But it certainly makes mistakes. It's not perfect, you know. The mistakes that it makes is that like are very fixable. Like I notice the mistakes that it makes are more so like I'll be like, hey, look up the news on the day and only feed back to me news that came out in the last 24 hours, right? And so instead it'll feed me news that came out 2 months ago. And I'll have to kind of scold it. I'll be like, no, Chat GPT, listen to me. Only like you ended up giving me news from 2 months ago. And then you'll have to use some type of logic, like before you process this request, back test it and make sure it's only happened in the last 24 hours, right? And every single time I ask you something until I tell you to stop, do that. And then it'll get better at it, right? So you got to know how to work around it. But if you can do it like that, it'll work. You just have to, you got to figure out how to talk to it almost. Yeah. Yeah. Bad GPT, bad AI, you know. Sit in the corner and think about what you've done. It understands sarcasm, though, which is interesting, too. The big thing today, the overarching point of today is updating the Blackwell progress. That's the end-all, be-all of today, is what they're doing with the Blackwell chip. 100%. That's the end-all, be-all. So the Blackwell chip is going to be crazy relevant. And if you want to see if Nvidia is going to go up, down, or sideways from this report, wait and listen to what they say on the Blackwell chip. That's the biggest thing today for sure. It's like a genius child. Yeah, it's like a idiot savant. Kind of. Yeah, there's always errors, but the updated forms of AI, you can literally take a picture of it and be like, hey, this is the errors you just gave me, fix them. And it'll say, oh, I see what I did wrong, let me give you this, let me do this instead, I'm going to do this, and then it'll feed you the code back. It usually takes a couple tries, but it works. How would the dollar index react to tomorrow's GDP report? Honestly, it's a huge report. Honestly, this whole week we got a bunch of stuff going on, man. We got GDP data tomorrow. It's the first revision GDP. The last one was what's called the initial estimate. It's the least accurate. It came in at 2.8% GDP. A lot of people are saying we're in a recession, and then that 2.8% GDP came out, and so people said, hey, I don't believe these numbers, right? Well, you got to understand it's the first numbers that come out. The first revision numbers, which is tomorrow, are going to be updating the previous 2.8% GDP report. So if you think we're weaker in the economy than originally stated in GDP, you want to pay attention tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to stream the whole thing live like we always do. It's a massive, massive report. And so, yeah, just be ready, guys. Supermicro will be fine. Most of the community are bulls here. Yeah. I mean, of course they're bulls, man. Listen, I get people are skeptical on AI, but you know, there's only the easiest way to put it. You have to think bigger than 6 months or a year, right? Like a couple times everybody's lifetime, you're gonna get game-changing technological advancements that you can profit from. Only a couple times through everybody's life, right? Maybe more, maybe less. And so if you stay too skeptical, then you're going to miss out on something, you know. And a lot of people did already with Nvidia, but I think even looking at the gains that it's currently made is small-minded. I think regardless of what happens today, like we might crash and burn today, I don't know. But regardless of that, when you zoom out, when you look at the type of growth, when you look at the everyday impact of AI, and when you extrapolate that over a long period of time, in my opinion, it's that next big technology. You know, it's parallel to the internet, I think. And some people might disagree with me, and that's all right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it crashes and burns. Maybe it's a gimmick. I've heard a lot of different stuff about it. But to be fair, years ago, I was telling people AI was the next big thing, and here we are a couple years later, and Nvidia has made thousands of % gains, made a lot of people really wealthy. I've made some money on it, you know. And so it's something that like you can underestimate it, and that's fine, and you might be right, you know. But I think taking the risk behind it makes sense to me. So, and regardless of what happens today, it might fall all the way down. You know, the internet was that next big technology, and it still fell, you know. So the internet was that big thing, and we had one of the longest bear markets, you know, after 2000. The internet was big, but still things got overpriced too soon, and we corrected big from it for years, almost a decade. You know, Microsoft, if you look at it, took almost 15, or it might have been longer than that, years to break the highs that it did leading up to the dot-com crash. So, yeah. Yeah, but AI will be heavily regulated because it's going to lead to massive unemployment. I don't know, man. I think you got to look at it in terms of like the automobile and the carriage. The carriage industry was a huge industry, you know. And, you know, a lot of people said the same thing, but imagine how many people started getting jobs from the automobile. You know, same thing with like the internet. You know, brick and mortar stores suffer, but more jobs are created from the technology growth. So I don't know. I think it's definitely gonna kill some jobs, like without question. That's a very obvious, a really self-evident thing. But I think it's gonna create a lot of jobs as well. You know, in different industries that people might not expect. So human intelligence is no longer important. I don't think anybody's saying that. You know, I think I don't think anybody's underappreciating human intelligence. You know, we're the ones that built AI systems to begin with. And I understand the fears. Like, I think the real, like, again, I think people are acting like AI is going to go completely sentient and turn into Skynet. And maybe that freaking happens. I don't know. But, again, the bigger risk is that it replaces jobs. You know, and again, it's not going to stay permanent. Like, jobs are going to be created for it. The big risk is that it replaces jobs too quickly, and then for the new jobs to be created, there's a lagging effect of that to where there's a big period of time, maybe a decade, where a lot of people lose jobs, and then how does that affect the world, right? Like, I think that if you're really trying to get philosophical with it, that's where that type of stuff is. But again, who knows? We'll see. I'm just trying to profit from it. That's all I care about right now, you know. Jensen will announce Skynet today. That's the Blackwell chip, bro. Remember the chip in in Terminator? The Blackwell chip is it. Oddly enough, people both greatly overestimate what AI can do and underestimate it. Just depends on the type of task. It's not actually intelligent. It's just really good at querying things. It can query anything you need to know very quickly. That's the power of it. And again, that's a crazy good power, you know. Is it an actual person that can talk to you? And, you know, I know some people have like AI girlfriends or whatever. You know, I think that's going to grow over time too, believe it or not. But I don't think we're there yet. Tesla's starting to push up as well. Tesla came down a lot. You know, Tesla dropped 10% in the last couple weeks, right? Yeah, more than that. Tesla was at 275 at the beginning of July. It's now at 200. That's a big percentage. That's 75 divided by 3, whatever that is. So, it's like 25. Duh. 75 divided by 20 is 25. But yeah, point is, that's 25% drop since July for Tesla. Low-key AI GF was crazy. Yeah, I don't know. All right, we got 1,200 people here live. I'm going to put it in sub-only mode, guys. So if you haven't already subscribed, hit the notification bell. I appreciate it. We are in sub-only mode. We did break 145,000 subscribers today, so I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Listen, I don't guarantee anything. I don't even claim to be a good trader. I don't claim to be an expert. Top 3 worst trader in the world right now. Don't copy me. Don't sue me. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm not an investment professional. And so, hey, top 3 most wrong trader in the world, they say. But subscribe, with all that said. Why the heck is Buffett exiting and holding cash? I mean, it probably has to do with more rate cuts, unless he knows something about GDP or PCE data Friday. It probably has to do with rate cuts. He's worried that rate cuts are going to negatively impact the market. And, if we cut rates greater than 25 basis points, it could spark panic. A 25 basis point rate cut is fine if we start to bring interest rates down slowly. But if we start to do 50, 75 BP each session, which is every 6 weeks, that might cause panic in markets. People might freak out. And so... Everyone's streaming earnings now. You were the first one. Honestly, a lot of people have been copying what we do, and that's all right. We're trendsetters over here. Just remember, a lot of these guys don't actually know anything about economics or the stock market, and so they're calling it. A lot of people call in every rate decision a rate hike. That's how they don't know. There's a difference between a rate hike and a rate decision. A rate hike means to hike it up, to raise. Which is what they do. It's what's called a hawkish Fed decision. Anyways, Nvidia pump it up almost to 127s here, guys. So it's still making moves. I feel like the stock could go tomorrow 10% either way the earnings go. Yeah. I think AI will one day be as good as androids in the future, like Data and Star Trek. Yeah. Honestly, and the Blackwell chip is, Yeah, the Blackwell chip factor is massive. We still got like 30 minutes before Nvidia earnings drop. And so the Blackwell chip factor refers to the significance of Nvidia's big Blackwell chip GPU architecture in its earnings report and for future business overall, right? The Blackwell chips is expected to be a major, massive product for Nvidia. It might become one of the most successful in the company's history. A lot of people are concerned about it, though. They've delayed it a couple times, and the delay in the release of these chips could impact Nvidia's short-term revenue and stock performance short-term as well today. Despite that, though, the Blackwell chip is a really powerful GPU chip. Analysts are usually pretty optimistic. I'm pretty optimistic in it as well. I think anything can happen short-term, though, is what you got to understand. Any freaking thing could happen short-term. Stocks can go up, down, sideways short-term. Earnings can come in good and the stock could drop 20%. Earnings can come in bad and the stock could go up 20%. In any number of ways that could, things can happen. Volatility is here in earnings reports. And so I think, there's a very famous saying. It says, when in doubt, zoom out. Nvidia's got a good long-term chart. And I think when you look at the future, anytime I look at a stock that I want to hold long-term, I always do the same thought experiment, which every investor should do this. And the thought experiment goes, What are the vulnerabilities? Is this thing going to become obsolete in the future? What does the next 30 years look like? Right? And I think there's a lot of stuff like Roku is a good example of this. Like years ago, I told people I thought Roku was sketchy because it went from hardware to software. And once you go to software, you're replaceable, right? Like TV companies can produce their own versions of Roku very cheaply. And why would they let you stay there as a middleman, right? They're just going to create their own version of Roku and nobody's going to need you anymore. It's not like people are buying Roku for their TVs. And so that was a risk to Roku. And when you look at Roku over a long-term chart, it's down huge. Understandable. Predictable is really what it is. And so when you look at stuff like Nvidia, you got to have the same concept, the same thought process. Is any other company about to replace Nvidia? Not right now, not that I see. Are people going to still use Nvidia deep into the future? Probably, they're going to have more of a need for them in the future, in my opinion, right? And I could always be wrong. I'm, like I said, top 3 worst trader in the world right now, they say. But top 3 also. AMD could? Yeah, maybe. AMD is going to replace Intel more than Nvidia, though, in my opinion. ARM, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying there's not competition, but I don't think they're not a reasonable threat right now. Not in my opinion. Same said about Nokia, BB, Lucent, Intel. Yeah. Honestly, the results are secondary to the leather jacket, man. Speaks. Yeah. Jensen, the GOAT, the new Fonzie, the modern day Fonzie, they call him. You know. I could only wish to dream to be as cool as Jensen Huang, you know. AMD has potential, but it's so behind. Yeah, for sure. AMD's cool. I'm not saying it's a weak company, but it's not like Nvidia. Domestic chip production, defense. Yeah. I just want to be a millionaire today. You try to rush it, you're not going to be it. You know, you can't rush it. The more you try to rush it, the more likelihood that you're going to lose it. ChatGPT will give a new schematic to replace Nvidia. Maybe. ARM's interesting, although it didn't ARM correct big. Oh no, ARM's still at 125. Thoughts on Palantir? I like Palantir. Palantir's been up a lot the last couple weeks too. Did it correct? No, it's still up there. It pulled back a little bit. It got up to 33s. It was at $20 at the beginning of this month, right? So less than a month later, it's gone up 50% for Palantir. So yeah, I like Palantir. I'm not going to tell you to buy it though. Not an investment professional. Are you a multimillionaire? Well, it depends on your definition of it. You know. Any predictions on CrowdStrike? Yeah, CrowdStrike earnings are massive. So before Nvidia drops their numbers, CrowdStrike is a massive report. Like, it is absolutely huge. And so CrowdStrike's huge. Yeah. We'll see. All right, guys. Again, technically, we still have about 30 minutes left until earnings drop. Technically, like, again, it doesn't matter. A lot of the time, Nvidia releases early, or I'm sorry, a lot of the time, Nvidia releases late. So Nvidia does and can release late earnings. It doesn't mean they will, but they can. I hope they release them late, to be honest. I hope we get as many people here as possible. Oh, if we're talking net worth, I'm going to respectfully choose not to answer that. People get weird, man. Like, jealous, insecure. People get weird, dude. You'd be surprised at how much, you know. Like, if I let somebody on my show like 2 years ago, right, and then I stopped letting anybody on my show, and they're struggling right now, they're going to blame me for it, you know. And so if I start doing well, they're going to get weird. Hey, y'all hit that subscribe button, chat. We appreciate it. The release, again, the market closes in 5 minutes. Right, so the market closes at 5. The earnings are scheduled for 25 minutes from now, right? So the technical earnings are scheduled for much later than today. And so, yeah, the earnings, again, scheduled for 4:20 Eastern Standard Time in 25 minutes. And again, a lot of the time Nvidia is late. It doesn't mean they will be today, though, right? And again, as I've said many times for earnings can be released right at the closing bell. They can be released at their scheduled time. They can be released earlier or later than their scheduled time. It doesn't really matter. We can have a schedule, and usually, you know, they try to go by the schedule, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean they will. Anything could ultimately happen in between now and then, and so, yeah. All right, so we got hundreds of votes on Twitter as well. 77% are bullish on Nvidia. 23% are bearish. So. Hey, what's up, Mr. Robbers? Obi-Wan. What's up, dude? Tommy, Clinton, Jay. Hey, Jod, I'm going to be taking a large chunk of my account for a 40% down payment on my house. That's what best for me and my fam. I'll be less interested. Hey, good luck, Big. You know, be safe out there, brother. You know. Remember, like, interest rates are probably going to start dropping in the next year. And so that might mean good or bad things for home prices. You know, if rates are cut, it could cause panic short term. But generally, in a year, people are going to have lower interest rates, right? So that might open up buys in real estate and make the market go up more. We just don't know. Nobody knows. Real estate prices have not really slowed down, even though we've had high interest rates, right? So it's nuanced. All right, so we got 2,000 people here watching. We still got 3 minutes until the close and really about 24 minutes left until Nvidia is supposed to release. And again, we will cover the full release live right here. See, honestly, look at Roku and look at my indicator, my algorithm here. Right? Like even on a long-term basis, look at that. Honestly, I might have to start looking at this thing long-term. Look at that indicator. Wow. Look at that. Even this called the downward pressure. So 5 for 5 right there. I'll have to keep looking at it. I'm going to turn it off. Don't ask me the logic. I'm not going to tell you. All right. Here's the cue. All right, you guys ready? We got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes. Yeah, I mean, Nvidia has dipped a little bit, but it's not down that much, So we got over 2,000 votes on our poll. 67% think beat, 12% think miss, 15% think as expected. So again, vote on the poll, guys. Yeah, we're going to look at CrowdStrike. We're going to look at, again, Salesforce releases. That's probably the biggest stock that releases, although CrowdStrike's probably a pretty big report too. And again, we're going to cover all of it, so stick around. OpenAI is in talks for funding round, valuing it at over $100 billion, with Microsoft also expected to put money in, according to the Wall Street Journal. But yeah, get ready, guys. We got less than a minute before the closing bell. Here we go. All right, so guys, so at the closing bell specifically here, chat. So at the close. All right, at the closing bell today. Look, here's Nvidia's EPS. This is a little bit late. We got about 30 seconds left. So this is a little bit late timing wise, Chad. So I'm going to turn this timer off. But again, scheduled here today. CrowdStrike at 4:05. Salesforce right at 4 p.m. on the dot. I'm going to put Salesforce up. Although CrowdStrike could move things as well. But we're going to put all of these up. We got a firm CrowdStrike. Here's the closing bell, chat. Yeah, we're going to cover all of them, guys. We're going to cover all of them. All right, there is the closing bell today. So that's the close. Let's wait. Now's when the craziness starts. I don't like that 67% of the voters said beat. That scares me. Why? Which companies this morning report good earnings? Nvidia's moving. All right, CrowdStrike, Salesforce. Waiting here, Chad. Just waiting. Nothing out yet. I'm looking up everything right now. Nothing out yet. Just patiently waiting here, chat. There's, again, CrowdStrike drops at 4:05, technically. Everybody's waiting. So there's CRM Salesforce, guys. Salesforce just dumped down to 254 share for Salesforce. So 254. They posted second quarter revenue of 9.33 billion. 9.33 billion. They expected 9.23, so better than expected revenue. EPS. Their guidance was up. Now they're ripping up here. Look at this. So they came all the way back up to 268 for Salesforce. Again, they posted fiscal year 25 revenue guidance of 9.31 billion versus 9.36 billion, up 7%. Yeah, so better than expected revenue, which is usually the most important one. They said, yeah. So there's Salesforce. I'll put these numbers up on screen so you can see it. Fiscal year revenue guidance at 38 billion. There's Salesforce's revenue. Their EPS was 147. They expected they said third quarter EPS guidance is 143. Third quarter revenue at 9.36 billion for guidance. Third quarter adjusted EPS of 242 to 244. Revenue is fiscal year revenue is 38 billion for guidance. So they beat mostly. They're up, not a ton. So there's Salesforce. Again, the next one to watch is CrowdStrike. Again, still waiting. Nvidia earnings drop at 4:20 Eastern Standard Time is when they're scheduled to drop, so in about 15 to 20 minutes. There's no guarantee of when they're coming out, though. They might come out before or afterwards. I hope they come out. Honestly, to be honest, I hope they come out late because it'll get a lot of the quietness out the way. It'll make it a lot more quiet. It'll get some of the chaos out of the way. There's a lot of other big earnings that drop in the next 10 minutes, and so I would rather them drop later at like 420 plus than right now because there's a lot of volatility and activity right now in markets. You know, we got CrowdStrike, Salesforce, Affirm. Hey, thank you with Janice. Hey, thank you. OKTA. Yeah, I can look up OKTA. I'll put it up on screen if I have it. Within reason, though. Like I'm gonna. Yeah. Here's OKTA right there. It's in the chat right now. All right, so we're at 265.50 for CrowdStrike. 265.50. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Yeah, Michael, I'm not looking at anything, bro. I don't even know what's a comment, dude. I don't even know what a comment is, bro. Scared the report will drop any minute. It might, honestly. Here goes CrowdStrike, guys. Here goes CrowdStrike. Watch CrowdStrike right now. Ooh, down to 257s, 253s for CrowdStrike. Sometimes the first move is the wrong move, but there's CrowdStrike, guys. CrowdStrike is down. Let's see if we can find the earnings report. Again, Salesforce 256 versus 236, revenue of 9.33 billion. Look at CrowdStrike. First move was the wrong move. Look at this huge rebound back up to 270. So the trend that I'm seeing right now with earnings is a big negative reaction and then a huge rebound back up. You know, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like we retraced that whole downward pressure move and then back up, and now we're back down again. So we're pretty middle range for CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike ended up posting. They posted GAAP net income more than 5 times year over year. Revenue was 963.9 million. 963.9 million versus 959 expected. So better than expected revenue. They expected 97-cent profit. I'm still trying to find their EPS. Yeah, so they posted 104 versus 97 cents expected for EPS. 104 versus 97 cents expected. So there's CrowdStrike's numbers right there if you want to see them. Again, Nvidia earnings still waiting. They should drop in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Again, hit the live button next to the play button. You'll know when it comes out. But yeah, CrowdStrike is up. Salesforce is up. Affirm, I'm not sure what they did. But yeah, be ready. But there's CrowdStrike's numbers right there. Sorry, I gotta get rid of the Christmas music. My bad, guys. Nvidia all-time highs today. I hope so. I hope so. CrowdStrike says they're working with customers to recover from the July 19th incident. Nvidia's gonna rocket through the roof. I hope so, bro. I really do. Yeah, I mean, you can talk about food companies, but again, it is Nvidia earnings, and so I'm gonna be selective about what I talk. Like who, we got 4,000 people watching, so I mean, I'm gonna be selective over who I respond to. And so if you talk about something related to today, it doesn't even have to be Nvidia. You have a higher chance of me, responding back to you. Sounded like Changes by Tupac. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, where's Nvidia going today, guys? All right. Like and subscribe. I got to bring in y'all top-notch data. Hey, we try over here. Nvidia to the moon, but not to the next galaxy. Nvidia will reach beyond its high of all times. Yeah, I hope so. Lifetime highs for Nvidia are like 140, right? Like 140 are all-time highs for Nvidia. So yeah, we definitely broke 145K. Look how flat Nvidia is leading into this. Interesting. Again, if you haven't already subscribed, we cover all the big economic reports, earnings reports, all that stuff live, completely free right here on the stream. We don't sell a course, don't sell a service, don't claim to be even a good trader. Everything we drop is completely free. And so if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I appreciate it. My channel is called Beginner Trading because we're a resource. We cover data quickly versus everybody else. Like, that's why we get thousands of people here, is because we cover it quickly. Tomorrow we have GDP data at 8:30. We'll cover it. PCE data on Friday. These things will move markets. And then next week we got a bunch of stuff too. We got like the JOLTS report. We cover all of it live. We trade live every day. We invest. I don't even claim to be a good trader. I don't sell a course. And so if you want to appreciate, you want to support free content, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I appreciate it. I don't know if it happens today, but one of the next results of Nvidia will lead to the results for Nvidia happen today. So they're dropping in about 10 minutes. Maybe we're not going to see that reaction today. But, all right, look, here's a big candle for Nvidia. You see this movement on this candle? Look at this movement. It doesn't mean anything yet. It's not big enough to really be anything yet, but CrowdStrike's starting to turn. Salesforce too. Salesforce came all the way back down too, so a lot of them went up, down. I think a lot of these stocks that even reported earnings today are waiting for Nvidia earnings to drop. So again, we'll see. Buy yourself an Nvidia gamer bucket. Reaction will be a Bitcoin. Bitcoin at 58K. Bitcoin fell a lot over the last day. All right, so Nvidia down some. This is not earnings, though. This is definitely not earnings yet. Bitcoin fell a lot. It was at 64K yesterday or the day before. It's now at 59, 58. It's all about the guidance, people. Yeah, I mean, guidance is massive for sure. I get Nvidia at 125s. Still waiting here. We still got 10 minutes left, guys. 9 minutes left. I'll put a timer up so you guys know. But we got about 9 minutes left until they're scheduled to release, right? So nobody really knows. I'll put this up. This is about right. It's about a minute beforehand, but yeah. All right, look at CrowdStrike start to bounce back up too. I get an Nvidia tattoo when they dump. Yeah, I remember I made a bet a long time ago with AMC traders. I said if AMC breaks $100 a share, I'll get an AMC tattoo. And to be honest, I almost did, right? Like, I kind of wanted it to happen. Number one, because I was in AMC at the time. But number two is because as cringy as it would have been, it would have probably been good for my YouTube channel at the time. It's not like I necessarily need like publicity. But I think it would have been good for it in that regard. But it never happened. AMC never broke 100, and here we are with no AMC tattoo years later. I don't know if I would have regretted it or not at this point. Story would be a fun story for sure. I was planning on getting it on like my big toe personally, but so I could say I stepped on AMC, but never happened. Honestly, dude, I brought my dogs upstairs for this exact specific reason. And, all right, guys, we got 7 minutes left. 7 minutes. That's Bruce, the German Shepherd. He's a good boy, though. But he's loud. Yeah, the dog thinks, you know, we're going to come in bearish. Or bullish, I mean. Sorry. Yeah, no. Where do you find financial reports? Right here on Beginner Trading. Live stream. Salesforce back up. Yeah, that's Bruce. Bruce is the loud boy. Bruce barks the most. He's much more vocal. He cries too. He cries and whines much more. Rosie's chill. She doesn't do it as much. Like you can kind of hear him whining a little bit right now. Somebody's probably got some food out. He's super food motivated. Anyways, we got 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Yeah, we got about 4,300 people watching live. What if Jensen resigns? I mean, if the CEO resigned, Nvidia would almost certainly dump fast. I don't know what they're doing out there. All right, guys. Salesforce at 267. Still waiting here, right? So technically, they're scheduled to release in about 6 minutes. Can you share your thoughts on the NASDAQ 100? Well, I think the NASDAQ 100 is up a lot over the last year or two, specifically from Nvidia. I think it's a lot weighted towards Nvidia right now, and it's also up really big percentages. But I still think it's pretty strong long term, and I think investing in the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Dow diversified into all of them is still a pretty good long-term investment. I can't guarantee anything, but it's probably the highest edge investment strategy in the world. It's just buying up index funds and waiting. All right, guys, Salesforce pushing up a little bit. Nvidia's still under the previous. We'll put the previous closing price up so you can see the previous closing price is way up here at 128. So this is where Nvidia closed yesterday, is way up here at 128. It's still down relative to that level. But again, everything depends on this earnings report. Whole market will move based on Nvidia earnings. Yeah, no, the whole market's following Nvidia. Sure, CRM Salesforce just broke highs too. Your call has been forwarded to. All right, chat. You guys ready? Less than 5 minutes here, guys. Less than 5 minutes. We got about 5,000 people watching. That's fun. Like I know last time we had 10,000 people, but like, you know, the interest is declining some, you know, quarter to quarter, and that's okay. The first one we had 15,000 people here, which was crazy. It's like waiting for results at the dentist. Yeah, or worse, the doctor. Yeah, we're going to stream the full earnings call live like we always do. We got 4 minutes left, chat. 4 minutes left. All right, guys. Less than 4 minutes. 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes now.
Hey, I'm out.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you, Randall. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, sorry. I was talking to my wife, Carol. Sorry. Salesforce at 270s. Nvidia at 125.50s. All right, guys, here we go. We got less than 3 minutes. All right, guys, you're going to let fear dictate your future? Me? I mean, I don't really know how anything I said relates to that, but let it out, bro. It's okay. I'm here. Talk to me. I'll be your therapist. All right, guys. Again, Salesforce up to 270s. Nvidia at 125.60s, 125.50s. Okay. All right, so Nvidia at 125. Again, here's the moment. Again, Nvidia is usually a little bit late. They really are usually late. Yeah, this is like New Year's Eve countdown. It really is kind of more important because something happens. All right, here we go. All right, guys, a minute and a half left. A minute and a half left. Be ready here, guys. I need a drum roll. I need one of those little buttons. All right, Nvidia actually starting to push up. It's at 126s. Here we go. 126.10s. 126.20s. Nvidia's moving up, guys. It's starting to move. Affirm. Nvidia's up. 126.70s. 1 minute left. I don't think this is the earnings. It's too small of a move. I think this is just an anticipation preceding the earnings. I might be wrong, though. Affirm posted as well. I'll put those numbers up on screen. Again, get your last minute predictions in chat right now. Bullish or bearish, red or green, up or down. It's at 127s right now, 127s. Still waiting here. Still waiting here, chat. I'm gonna do my best to get this as fast as I can to you too. Still waiting. Up to 128s. Nothing yet. All right, the timer's going off. 20 seconds left. Get your last minute predictions in chat. We're at 128. We're completely flat on the day right now. 5 seconds. Hit the live button next to the play button. Make sure you're fully caught up on stream here, guys. Here we go. This is it. Nvidia up to 128s. All right, watch it now. Here it is. 420 just happened. It's at 128s right now. 127. It doesn't look like the earnings are out yet. All right, it's down. It's down to 124s. It's at 126s. The earnings are out. I think they're up. Or I'm not sure yet. Earnings are out. Nvidia second quarter adjusted EPS 68 cents a share. Revenue 30 billion versus 28.86 billion expected. In second quarter, data center revenue came in at 26.3 billion versus 25 billion expected. This is better than expected EPS revenue and data center numbers. All right. So better than expected EPS revenue and data center numbers. Again, 68 cents beat 64 cents expected. Sales came in at 30 billion versus 28.68 billion expected. So they did better than expected EPS and revenue. 68 cents versus 64 cents expected. Again, revenue at 30 billion versus 28.68 billion expected. We'll put this number up on screen. There's the numbers right there. Beat EPS, beat revenue. Hasn't really moved a lot, which is interesting. Again, so they said, quote, Hopper demand remains strong in the anticipation of the Blackwell is incredible, said Jensen Huang, founder and CEO of Nvidia. Nvidia achieved record revenues as global data centers are in full throttle to modernize the entire computing stack with accelerated computing and generative AI, is what he said. He said, Blackwell samples are shipping to our partners and customers, Spectrum X, Ethernet, and AI. NVIDIA AI enterprise software, 2 new product categories achieving big scales, demonstrating that NVIDIA is a full stack and data center scale platform across the entire stack and ecosystem. We are helping frontier model makers to consume internet services and now enterprises. Generative AI will revolutionize every industry. During the first half of 25, Nvidia returned Nvidia returned 15.4 billion to shareholders in the form of share repurchases. This must be an error in there. Must have been 24. As of the end of the second quarter, the company had 7.5 billion remaining under its share repurchase authorization. The board of directors approved an additional $50 billion in share repurchase authorization without expiration here. So they're doing a $50 billion share repurchase authorization, which is a buyback. It will pay its next quarterly cash dividend of $1 per share on October 3rd to all shareholders. Nvidia completed a 10-for-1 forward split. So that's it. So again, board of directors approves $50 billion in share repurchase authorization without an expiration here, guys. So honestly, it's kind of flat for this crazy big news story. It's kind of flat, but again, you can kind of see board of directors approved $50 billion in share repurchase authorization without expiration. So without expiring, 50 billion shares. So or 50 billion in shares, I mean, is what I should say. It didn't pump. It's down a little bit, actually. But again, I've said this once and I'll say it again. I think if Nvidia just holds its gains, right? If Nvidia just holds its gains, it's going to be doing fine. If it could just hold, it doesn't need to go up for me. It just needs to hold its gains that it's made over the last few years, short term. Right now, it's starting to test 125. I think the good news is that it had better than expected EPS, better than expected revenue, good data center numbers. And again, updates on the Blackwell chip were mostly positive. So I think this is optimistic and good. If you want the actual page here. Yeah, massive quarterly results. Here is one of their trends. I can put this up on screen if you want. So first quarter 2025. So look at this big drop all the way down under 120 for Nvidia. So Nvidia is flushing a little bit right now in markets, guys. So Nvidia quarter two professional visualization revenues came in at 454 million versus 446 million expected. So better than expected there. Auto revenue came in at 346 million versus 350 million. So a little bit worse than expected auto revenue. But they are trading lower here, guys. They're starting to flush down. Now they're at 118s. Just be careful out there, market. Again, we are going to stream the entire earnings call live on stream right here like we always do. So the entire earnings call, again, will be streamed completely live right here on stream. All right, so we're down to 116s for Nvidia. Massive drop. Again, down to 115s here, guys. 115s. Retail leaving. It'll bounce tomorrow. Maybe. It's down, though. It's dropping hard right now. Again, a 50 billion share buyback. 68 cent EPS. 64 cents expected. Revenue at 30 bill versus 28.68 bill. So, definitely down. This is the name of the game. Yeah, again, like I said, guys, like people always ask me, hey, should I buy up this ahead of earnings? Should I buy up that? I always tell them the same thing. So I wouldn't mess with, buying up stuff ahead of earnings. If you're a bull in Nvidia, you can hold through Nvidia earnings, right? But it's got to be, you got to have long-term in mind. Short-term, anything could freaking happen. Companies can have good EPS, good revenue, and dump. Companies can have bad EPS, bad revenue, and rip. It's never a super easy to predict way, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to end this poll right now, guys, and we're going to do another poll. Definitely it's down big. Again, we're going to do another poll. Another poll. Nvidia's starting to bounce back, though. It's back up to 121s already. So, again, this just got a big range. All right, so we'll do a poll. Are you bullish or bearish on Nvidia for their upcoming earnings call. And again, we're going to stream the full call live like we always do. Let me change this and get this ready. But yeah, their full earnings call is at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so they're all the way back to 123s here. This is what I mean. Like, people are so emotional. It really kind of shows. It really kind of shows how many people have not really paid attention to earnings calls before. Because again, this happens. Like, this is normal. Yeah, this is normal. This is what happens. Stocks move up and down big numbers, and you got to just let time play out. You know, again, there's a very famous quote, and it goes, "When in doubt, zoom out." Here's the Nvidia's numbers right here. Again, we're gonna put sub to chat, guys, so we appreciate it. We got their numbers up again. 50 billion buyback is what they also announced. They're all the way back up to the middle range. They're all the way back up to 122s. You called it. You're the best. Yeah. Again, there's a very famous saying for earnings, and the saying goes, "The first move a lot of the time is the wrong move." Right? And this is very true. Again, I would stick around, guys. The earnings call is coming out today in about 30 minutes, and again, we're gonna stay streaming, cover everything live like we always do, and yeah. So I'd stick around if I were you guys. This is a massive report, an absolutely huge report. And again, we're going to stream all of it. The music should be on. Let me fix this. Let me know if you can hear this music. We're going to update you on the rest of their numbers here too. So again, data center revenues came in at 26.3 bill. Yeah, I think a lot of the time people want Nvidia to drop. You know, we're going to put a lot, just because like a lot of them missed out on, you know, the crazy exponential gains that we've had over the last few years, right? And so if you miss out on something, you want to believe it wasn't real, right? And so how do you believe it wasn't real with Nvidia? You get really bearish on it and hope it doesn't hold, right? Kind of the same people who tell you the market's going to crash every other week because they missed out on the big 24% the S&P or the NASDAQ did last year, you know? But again, right now we're pretty flat. I'm going to wait till the earnings call starts. And again, the earnings call starts very soon. If you haven't already, check out my sponsor, TopStep. TopStep, funded account program in futures. You know, we day trade every weekday morning. We swing trade. We invest. I don't even claim to be a good trader. But one of the reasons TopStep is good is because most day traders lose. And so if you put up $5,000, you're probably going to lose $5,000 trying to day trade with it. TopStep lets you limit that risk. They give you a demo first, and they test your skill with that. And then if you pass it, they fund you. And if you fail it, you only lose the monthly subscription. The base monthly subscription is $50, $49. And if you pass it, you get $50K in funding. You got to make $3K in profit without losing $2K first and following their rules. If you do that, you get $50K in funding, 90% split, similar to putting the money up yourself. If you fail, you only lose $49, which is a powerful thing. It lets you limit your risk. Still teaches you how to trade under pressure. And once you're funded, it's similar to putting the money up. If you fail, it's not the end of the world, right? And again, most day traders lose. I think most day traders will lose wherever they try it, even including here. But it's a lot cheaper to lose here. And if you're good enough to pass it, you get tons of funding. They've paid out over $40 million to their traders. But they're a sponsor of mine. They pay me money. You know, in the futures market, you can day trade the S&P, the NASDAQ, currencies, gold, silver. And so you can get a lot of day trading done in futures, and there's no PDT rule. And so check them out here. I'll put the link up. Again, they're a sponsor. They pay me money. I'm biased because of it for sure. Top 3 most biased people in the world, they say. But if you want to check it out, there's the link, guys. There's the link. Check it out. Appreciate the love. And remember, CFTC 4.41, hypothetical or simulated performance have limitations, guys. Anyways, yeah, dollar cost average is the move. You know, the benefit of dollar cost averaging, if you don't know what it is, right? DCAing is a powerful, powerful thing. What DCAing allows you to ultimately do is avoid volatility. You know, what DCAing is taking periodic buys at specific time intervals, regardless of price. And so if a stock moves up really big, you buy 50 shares. If a stock moves down really big, you buy 50 shares. And what this does is when you zoom out over a long period of time, it limits volatility and you can profit from healthy companies long term, right? That's what dollar cost averaging is. A lot of people need to learn what that is here too, you know. But again, Nvidia is one of those plays. A lot of young people involved. Young people like to gamble. Make your money. I'm not mad at it. Just be careful too, guys. Unbelievable good earnings and it dumps. I don't know, man. I don't think this is necessarily like a crazy big move here. Like this, is it not? Is it good? No. Is it horrible market crash inducing? No. Right. And really back up to 120. I think 120 is fine. You know, it's less than 10% for Nvidia isn't really the end of the world. Nvidia dropped much more than that over the last few weeks, right? And so again, I think if Nvidia holds, it's fine. It also sets up other stuff for the next few days. All right, guys. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, you could also use Top Step X, which is huge. Like Top Step X has 0 commissions, so it's actually pretty cool. All right. I mean, the Q dropped 1% from it, though. I mean, 1% is a very small drop for the Q. You know, 1%. The Q drops 1% regularly, right? So a lot of people have been saying if this fails, it's going to induce a market crash. I don't think so. You know, I think one of the biggest signs of a rookie trader versus an experienced trader is that rookie traders, a lot of them come from day trading, and so they don't really understand the odds of market crashes, right? They think every major economic report, every major FOMC meeting, every major earnings report is going to induce a market crash. Market crash happens once every decade, maybe. And we've already had a lot of what you could call big corrections over the last 4 or 5 years. And so the likelihood that we're going to crash big, it's not in nothing. It's possible, sure. But a lot of people are just watching big-time YouTubers who want to scare you so that they can get clicks and views, right? So they'll put out something saying the market's going to crash here, you know, dun, dun, dun. And they just try to freak you out so you click, right? And again, a lot of them have been wrong every other week. They've been posting a crash prediction, and they've just been wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong. But yeah, they still keep doing it. People still keep clicking on it. And thus is the name of the game, I guess. Election year doesn't normally crash. Right, we have an election year, which is a powerful thing in the stock market, right? The reason an election year is powerful is because, number one, you're going to have the Federal Reserve trying to stimulate the economy usually, right? So what that means is over the next few months, we're going to start cutting interest rates down because it's an election year and they want the economy to look good for election years, right? Very consistent throughout history, incredibly consistent, right? Like super predictable. The other thing is that, you know, Nvidia's been pumping up. It's just super unlikely that we crash this year. You can look at the odds of crashing during an election year. It's very, very low. Anyways, Nvidia's starting to pump back up, guys. It's back up to 122s. Let's see if it holds. And again, stick around. We are going to stream this entire thing live as we do. Appreciate the love. We've grown a lot from these channels, so hey. All right, let's do this. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I wonder if it's going to give me the odds. I'm going to use AI and see if AI can give me the odds of a market crash. What are the percentage odds of a market crash during an election year? This is why AI is good. Like, look, check it out. The percentage odds of a market crash during an election year can't be determined with precision. They depend on a lot of stuff. Inflation, interest rates, GDP growth, corporate earnings. Yeah. Okay. Give me the percentage of how many times the stock market has crashed over during an election year over the last 120 years, which is probably the full of the stock market. All right, this is why AI is useful too. It's not perfect though. It's definitely not perfect. It might be 0, but I don't know. It depends on what they define as crash. 2 times out of 30 election years, right? means approximately 6.67% of election years have coincided with significant market crashes, right? So again, 6.67%, right? So if we look at 120 years, out of every 100 years, market crashes about 6.5 of them. So it's just not super probable. And again, I'm not saying things are not setting up that way now. You know, you just got to understand, right? The biggest way to understand it is that during election years, one side wants power, the other side has power, right? The side that wants power, whichever side it is, it doesn't matter. Whichever side has the power wants to make you think things are just freaking rosy and great. Everything's perfect right now. The side that doesn't have power wants to make you think it's the worst it could ever possibly be ever, right? Neither of those things are true. Right now, neither of those things are true. You know, I'm not saying things are good. I'm not saying things are bad. Things aren't good. I'm not saying things aren't bad. I'm saying neither of those things are true. You know, and it takes a truly objective person to recognize that. A lot of people get really wrapped up in media and news and politics. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's just low probability. The call is in 23 and a half minutes, 22 and a half minutes. Chat, so be ready, guys, be ready. All right. Let's see what we got, guys. Again, be ready here. I'm so nervous. Well, most of the moves already happened, and Nvidia is pretty flat, guys. Like I said, like we had 6,000 people here, and that's great. I'll take it. Again, it's a blessing, right? Like, again, channel's a blessing, and having 6,000 live. If I was in front of 6,000 real people, I'd freak out. Talk fast. Probably wouldn't be able to talk at all. Probably freeze up. And so I appreciate everybody joining me for this live stream. Again, stick around. We're going to cover the entire earnings call live on this stream. So be ready. Yeah, so right now we're starting to move up. We're at 122.50s. Jensen knows how to speak. He'll probably be... Yeah, Jensen definitely... Like, when you compare Jensen to Elon... You know, Jensen wins, obviously. Elon's not the best public speaker. Jensen is. Jensen, that man can talk. Well, I should say. He can speak well. Yeah, we're streaming the entire call as well, Jonathan, for sure. Without question, the entire call. Look at Nvidia starting to pump. Again, read this right here to weatherman it. Like, look. You know? I would say crappy trading 101. Top 3 worst ever, in parentheses. This thing could be at 140 minutes. Just chill, fellas. No, so the earnings call is at 20 minutes, for sure. Yeah, hit the like button. We appreciate it, guys. Thanks. No matter his beat or miss, it's a game that sharks manipulate markets. Well, everybody, big money has... The reason big money is so powerful, and this is what people don't understand, right? People might say, oh, manipulation. Like, listen, guys. The reason being wealthy is powerful is because you can manipulate, right? And a lot of people might get mad at me for saying this. That's why it's valuable, is because you can have edges that other people don't with big money. You can get access to things that other people don't. You can influence things, i.e. manipulation, that other people can't. And so I can't get mad at big money for manipulating stocks if it's legal. Legal manipulation happens regularly, you know. Cough, cough, Elon Musk. You know, legal manipulation happens regularly. It's inevitable. But it can't really knock it either, because that's the point of having big money, is so you can use it to your advantage in that way. Yeah, so again, Nvidia all the way back up. It's at 124s. It's pretty flat from the earnings report. This is very neutral. And so again, I think a lot of people are tuning into the call. You can also see the Q is basically mirroring Nvidia right now. It looks exactly the same, which I don't know is necessarily a good thing. The Magnificent Seven making up such a big weight of movement in the stock market, but still, cash is king except for long term, Daniel. Cash is king unless you're trying to hold cash long term, and then it's losing significant value over time because of inflation. Yeah, again, I think one like trap people fall in, right? And I've seen people create YouTube channels that got kind of big, right, based around like meme stocks or based around like individual penny stocks, But I think the thing people have to understand is that most of the stocks that people say are getting manipulated are just terrible, horrible companies, right? Like MMAT, terrible company. It was never going to succeed, right? Even the CEOs know these companies aren't good. And again, nobody cries manipulation more than somebody that's wildly wrong about an investment. You better believe if somebody loses big money on a penny stock, they're going to cry manipulation. And maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. But, I've heard it so much running a finance community that I'm skeptical every time I hear the word manipulation. All right, guys. Yeah, we're still waiting on the earnings call here. Again, Nvidia fiscal Q2 non-GAAP earnings revenue, Q3 revenue outlook was issued as well. Revenue for the quarter ended in July was $30 billion. Company expects fiscal Q3 revenue of $32.5 billion plus or minus 2%. So they did better than expected for Q3 guidance. So for the next quarter, they think Nvidia is going to do a little bit better than expected. A little bit better than expected. You can see that number right there. A little bit. Again, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But guidance came in a little bit better than expected for Q3, and that's good. Obviously, guidance is one of the end-all be-alls. That might have been one of the reasons it's bouncing back as much as it has. Again, 50 billion share buyback authorization as of August 26, which was 2 days ago. It beat EPS, beat revenue. Gross margins did fall quarter over quarter. That might be another one of the reasons it initially dropped, but still. Yeah, the call's not starting. Yeah, we got the call waiting here, guys. So we got, yeah, the call's not gonna. We can't even look at the call until 15 minutes leading up to it. So. Are you guys ready? Again, pretty flat action and everything. The Nasdaq, the Q, the SPY, the Nvidia. I'm waiting to hear this earnings call. This is going to be one of the biggest updates in the stock market, and so a lot of people are on their heels waiting for this thing. Again, we'll put the call up and wait here a bit, but yeah. All right, so again, we got the full call up, waiting here. I'll put the screen up here. Again, we're waiting. It hasn't started yet. It starts in 15 minutes. There we go. We're waiting here, chat. Sitting tight. They beat expectations, but the stock didn't move. Yeah, but that's pretty standard, right? Like a lot of the time, companies beat EPS, beat revenue, and then still negatively react. There's a lot of reasons. It's really nuanced, to be honest. Again, it's really nuanced. But there's one of the main reasons is because the moves for Nvidia are happening the weeks preceding the earnings coming out, not right when they drop, right? So people are front loading into potential outcomes, good and bad, and you can kind of look up what people are front loading into. And so, when we have the earnings results, a lot of the moves are already made, and most of the people supporting Nvidia are not short-term traders, they're long-term investors. So a lot of them are already holding Nvidia, so they don't need to buy it again. So you might not see that big influx of buys, but, sometimes you do. It just depends. Yes, the earnings are out. can kind of see it right there. Full earnings stream live here at 5 p.m. Again, hit the sub button, hit the notification bell. We appreciate it. You got Nvidia on the left. We're sitting here waiting patiently. 13 minutes. Yeah, last time it was crazy, to be honest. But again, okay. Big earnings reports happen here, right? The next one might look like this in terms of, like, attention. And then the next one might look like this. They're all pretty big. But, you know, they lose interest over time. That's normal, you know. Sorry. It's a new Cybertruck they're putting out there next week. Anyways. Nvidia at 120s. Chat 120s. Sometimes it rains with clouds. Sometimes it's cloudy but no rain. I'm not a cloud expert. Just top 3 worst weather forecaster in the world. Me too. Top 3-ish. 2.5, I would say. All right, guys. 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Kramer will try to get shares up, but the mood now is sell after split and CEO selling like $19.99. Yeah. Yeah, Nvidia is at 121 even right now, basically 121. Hasn't really done much. Again, we're still sitting here waiting. And y'all can hear the music, right? If you can hear the music, you'll be able to hear the earnings call when it comes out. Yeah, it's all good, dude. CNBC said this is smaller and smaller beats of expectation. Right, but their growth phase is up there, you know. Their growth phase is up there, so, like, I don't know. I think we're gonna see, like, the way stocks typically grow is like this. They're gonna have big waves, slowdowns, big waves, slowdowns, big waves, you know, so forth and so on, right? Like, that's what generally happens. They're not gonna go and just hold like that. That's just not gonna happen. It's gonna be big moves, slow, big moves, slow. So yeah. Point is, don't expect it to just go straight up. That's not a reasonable expectation. I've said probably 50 times plus over the last 2-3 months that if Nvidia just stays sideways, that's a W for it. Like, that's a win for Nvidia. If it just holds sideways, it's doing well, right? I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks, man. Why is Amazon down so much? You never really know, man. The whole market's down over the last couple of weeks. And that's okay. You know, because you got to remember the yen carry disaster happened like a month ago and the market dumped like almost 10%. And then it rebounded right back up. And now we've been kind of coming back down a little bit. And so ups and downs, swings and misses, you know. Stocks only go up. What's a stock, dude? I don't even know what that is. I barely hear the music. Yeah, well, the call will actually be much louder than this. Yeah. Yeah, again, the big problem with stocks is that everybody rushes to be an expert, and it causes problems. You know, like, everybody wants to believe there's some type of expert savant, but most of the time they're not. And most of the time, again, I can tell just by watching people that cover the same stuff I cover that most people don't understand economics. You know, they call everything a rate hike. They don't really understand what Jerome Powell's doing. They don't even understand what rates are being influenced by him. They don't understand how that all works. A lot of people certainly don't understand what classifies as an actual recession, but some people do, and you know. Hey, thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Affirm is where it's at. But you add the guidance to the bottom. Yeah, I got you. Here. All right, so here's our guidance numbers. Yeah, we'll put the bottom right here. Here, I'll put it all up on the bottom screen, actually. I'll keep this up. Yeah, and then we'll put the full list of the actual results for Nvidia here. So they posted adjusted EPS. And then they had data center revenue too. Again, Q3 revenue came in at 32.5 billion, plus or minus 2% versus 31 expected. All right, guys, we got 7 minutes. All right, chat. And then again, you got to understand CFTC 4.41. All right, guys. So we'll put that. All the numbers are now at the bottom of the screen for your viewing pleasure. Again, we're very flat here. We're still waiting for this report to drop. Why AMD trading the exact same way makes no sense. It does. What you're saying is called sympathy movement, right? So what sympathy movements means in stocks is that stocks in the same sector, and even like the whole market right now is kind of moving with Nvidia. So the way we would say it is the entire market is moving in sympathy with Nvidia's earnings, whether good or bad. Sympathy doesn't necessarily have a negative stigma. It can be both good or bad results. And so if you look at the S&P right now versus Nvidia, it's going to look virtually identical. Where's Bruce Buffer at? If you look at the Q, it's going to look just like Nvidia right now. Why? Because it's influencing the whole market in that way. And it's really been like that for years, where Nvidia has wildly influenced markets in such a massive way over the past couple of years. So that means fundamentals have no meaning. Yeah, I mean, you seem to have the misunderstanding that you have regarding it, man, is that we're talking about short-term price action. When you zoom out, healthy companies are healthy companies, and weak companies are weak companies, right? But when you zoom in, a lot of them follow the big story of the day, which over the last few years has been Nvidia a lot of the time, right? And so a lot of the time markets are following Nvidia, and they don't perfectly mirror it. But on big release days like today with Nvidia earnings, the whole market's going to move with Nvidia because it's the biggest report of the quarter, right? And that's going to have a big impact and a massive swing on everything. So, all right, guys, here we go. We got 4.5 minutes. Thanks for the stream. 3,500 watching, only 600 likes. Like on the stream. Hey, thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, please stop spamming things. I'm just going to ban you every time you say it. So, yeah, 50 billion share buyback. I forgot to, 1 cent dividend. I don't even know what's the point of that, though. Dividend of 1 cent. I don't think anybody's buying Nvidia for 1 cent a share every quarter, right? Am I wrong here? Again, we'll put the 50 billion repurchase thing up there. 1 cent a share every quarter. Gonna be rich. Yeah. That was a great divvy. Yes, dividend stocks is hard. Like, you got to find stocks that pay good divvies and go up over time. That's the game. And it's a very obvious game, but that's the game. And again, it's not as easy as you might think. Some companies pay massive dividends, but they wildly depreciate over time. Some companies pay small dividends like Nvidia, but they go up huge over time, or at least they have. And so your job is to find undervalued companies that pay good dividends, right? Like, that's the name. That's the game you play. I mean, You got to start somewhere where you give it out a divvy, I guess. Yeah, nobody's buying Nvidia for the 1 cent a share every quarter. To put that into perspective, to let you know how small that is, right? Like, imagine how much risk comes from holding 1,000 shares of Nvidia right now, right? So again, the math is easy. Obviously, you got 1,000 shares at 120. That's $120,000, right? Nvidia swings up or down 10%. You're losing 12K, gaining 12K, whichever one, right? So say you got $1,000 or 1,000 shares, right? You're gonna make 1 cent per share. So you're gonna get 1,000 pennies every quarter for this much risk in Nvidia. Not a lot. All right, guys, here we go. We got 2 minutes. So basically, you're gonna make $10 a quarter for $120,000 of risk. Sign me up. I like Nvidia, I really do, but still. Hi, I know so many people already asked me that because why is the stock going down that much even though financial release was positive news? Because it's not that easy to make money in earnings, all right? If it was that easy, I'd sit around and wait for earnings to drop, and if they came in better than expected, I'd click buy and I'd get rich and ride off into the sunset. It'd be the infinite money glitch, but unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, and that's the biggest misunderstanding for new people paying attention to earnings. Like, you're not going to be able to sit around, wait for a company to have good EPS, good revenue, click buy, and get rich. It's just not that easy. Everybody would do it. Nobody would do anything else. The real moves are happening preceding and after, the earnings report goes live, and that should make sense to you. So I hope that makes sense. All right, guys, we got 1.5 minutes left. 1.5 minutes left. Yeah, an efficient market is a balanced market, And to be fair, Nvidia is pretty flat. All right, we're going to turn the music off. Guys, we're going to turn the music off. I'm going to mute this so we can get it as soon as it starts. You see with the live button, we're completely live on stream here. And we're waiting. Haven't started yet. 1 minute left. Yeah, well, that's an efficient market, Ryan. That's an efficient market hypothesis, or thesis, I should say. But yeah, and that's why, right? Because if not, it'd be an infinite money glitch. Everybody would do it. Nobody would do anything else. There'd be no market. People would just sit around, wait for earnings, and then sell as soon as they're done, Your channel is so useful. Hey, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right, guys, here we go. We're waiting here. Yeah, timer's going off. I mean, I personally think it's going to go up long term, but I really have no idea. Genuinely no idea what's going to happen. All right, again, we're sitting here waiting. Learned a life from you. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it, guys. All right, again, we're still waiting. It hasn't started yet. I'll change this to in progress, though.
Good afternoon. My name is Abby, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to NVIDIA's second quarter earnings call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during that time, simply press the star key, followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press star 1 a second time. Thank you. And Mr. Stuart Stecker, you may begin your conference.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NVIDIA's conference call for the second quarter of fiscal 2025. With me today from NVIDIA are Jensen Huang, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Colette Kress, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. I would like to remind you that our call is being webcast live on NVIDIA's Investor Relations website. The webcast will be available for replay until the conference call to discuss our financial results for the third quarter of fiscal 2025. The content of today's call is Nvidia's property. It cannot be reproduced or transcribed without prior written consent. During this call, we may make forward-looking statements based on current expectations. These are subject to a number of risks, significant risks, and uncertainties, and our actual results may differ materially. For a discussion of factors that could affect our future financial results and business, please refer to the disclosure in today's earnings release, our most recent Forms 10-K and 10-Q, and the reports that we may file on Form 8-K with the Securities and Exchange Commission. All our statements are made as of today, August 28, 2024, based on information currently available to us. Except as required by law, we assume no obligation to update any such statements. During this call, we will discuss non-GAAP financial measures. You can find a reconciliation of these non-GAAP financial measures to GAAP financial measures in our CFO commentary, which is posted on our website. Let me highlight an upcoming event for the financial community. We will be attending the Goldman Sachs Communacopia and Technology Conference on September 11th in San Francisco, where Jensen will participate in a keynote fireside chat. Our earnings call to discuss the results of our third quarter of fiscal 2025 is scheduled for Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. With that, let me turn the call over to Colette.
Thanks, Stuart. Q2 was another record quarter. Revenue of $30 billion was up 15% sequentially and up 122% year on year, and well above our outlook of $28 billion. Starting with data center. Data center revenue of $26.3 billion was a record, up 16% sequentially and up 154% year on year, driven by strong demand for Nvidia Hopper GPU computing and our networking platforms. Compute revenue grew more than 2.5x. Networking revenue grew more than 2x from the last year. Cloud service providers represented roughly 45% of our data center revenue, and more than 50% stemmed from the consumer, internet, and enterprise companies. Customers continue to accelerate their Hopper architecture purchases while gearing up to adopt Blackwell. Key workloads driving our data center growth include generative AI, model training and inferencing, video, image, and text data, pre- and post-processing with CUDA and AI workloads, synthetic data generation, AI-powered recommender systems, SQL and vector database processing as well. Next-generation models will require 10 to 20 times more compute to train with significantly more data. The trend is expected to continue. Over the trailing 4 quarters, we estimate that inference drove more than 40% of our data center revenue. CSPs, consumer internet companies, and enterprises benefit from the incredible throughput and efficiency of Nvidia's inference platform. Demand for Nvidia is coming from frontier model makers, consumer internet services, and tens of thousands of companies and startups building generative AI applications for consumers, advertising, education, enterprise and healthcare, and robotics. Developers desire Nvidia's rich ecosystem and availability in every cloud. CSPs appreciate the broad adoption of Nvidia and are growing their Nvidia capacity given the high demand. Nvidia H200 platform began ramping in Q2, shipping to large CSPs, consumer internet, and enterprise companies. The Nvidia H200 builds upon the strength of our Hopper architecture and offering over 40% more memory bandwidth compared to the H100. Our data center revenue in China grew sequentially in Q2 and is a significant contributor to our data center revenue. As a percentage of total data center revenue, it remains below levels seen prior to the imposition of export controls. We continue to expect the China market to be very competitive going forward. The latest round of MLPerf inference benchmarks highlighted NVIDIA's inference leadership with both NVIDIA Hopper and Blackwell platforms combining to win gold medals on all tests. At Computex, Nvidia, with the top computer manufacturers, unveiled an array of Blackwell architecture-powered systems and Nvidia networking for building AI factories and data centers. With the Nvidia MGX modular reference architecture, our OEMs and ODM partners are building more than 100 Blackwell-based systems designed quickly and cost-effectively. The Nvidia Blackwell platform brings together multiple GPU, CPU, DPU, NVLink switch, and the networking chips, systems, and Nvidia CUDA software to power the next generation of AI across the cases, industries, and countries. The Nvidia GB200 NVL72 system with the 5th generation NVLink enables all 72 GPUs to act as a single GPU and deliver up to 30 times faster inference for LLMs workloads and unlocking the ability to run trillion parameter models in real time. Hopper demand is strong and Blackwell is widely sampling. We executed a change to the Blackwell GPU mass to improve production yields. Blackwell production ramp is scheduled to begin in the fourth quarter and continue into fiscal year 26. In Q4, we expect to ship several $billion in Blackwell revenue. Hopper shipments are expected to increase in the second half of fiscal 2025. Hopper supply and availability have improved. Demand for Blackwell platforms is well above supply, and we expect this to continue into next year. Networking revenue increased 16% sequentially. Our Ethernet for AI revenue, which includes our Spectrum-X end-to-end Ethernet platform, doubled sequentially with hundreds of customers adopting our Ethernet offerings. Spectrum-X has broad market support from OEM and ODM partners and is being adopted by CSPs, GPU cloud providers, and enterprise, including xAI, to connect the largest GPU compute cluster in the world. Spectrum-X supercharges Ethernet for AI processing and delivers 1.6x the performance of traditional Ethernet. We plan to launch new Spectrum-X products every year to support demand for scaling compute clusters from tens of thousands of GPUs today to millions of GPUs in the near future. Spectrum-X is well on track to begin a multi-billion-dollar product line within a year. Our sovereign AI opportunities continue to expand as countries recognize AI expertise and infrastructure at national imperatives for their society and industries. Japan's National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology is building its AI Bridging Cloud Infrastructure 3.0 supercomputer with Nvidia. We believe sovereign AI revenue will reach low double-digit billions this year. The enterprise AI wave has started. Enterprises also drove sequential revenue growth in the quarter. We are working with most of the Fortune 100 companies on AI initiatives across industries and geographies. A range of applications are fueling our growth, including AI-powered chatbots, generative AI copilots, and agents to build new monetizable business applications and enhance employee productivity. Amdocs is using Nvidia generative AI for their smart agent, transforming the customer experience and reducing customer service costs by 30%. ServiceNow is using Nvidia for its Now Assist offering, the fastest growing new product in the company's history. SAP is using Nvidia to build Joule copilots. Cohesity is using Nvidia to build their generative AI agent and lower generative AI development costs. Snowflake serves over 3 billion queries a day for over 10,000 enterprise customers, is working with Nvidia to build copilots. And lastly, Wistron is using Nvidia AI Omniverse to reduce end-to-end cycle times for their factories by 50%. Automotive was a key growth driver for the quarter, as every automaker developing autonomous vehicle technology is using Nvidia in their data centers. Automotive will drive multi-billion dollars in revenue across on-prem and cloud consumption and will grow as next generation AV models require significantly more compute. Healthcare is also on its way to being a multi-billion dollar business as AI revolutionizes medical imaging, surgical robots, patient care, electronic health record processing, and drug discovery. During the quarter, we announced a new NVIDIA AI Foundry service to supercharge generative AI for the world's enterprises with Meta's Llama 3.1 collection of models. This marks a watershed moment for enterprise AI. Companies, for the first time, can leverage the capabilities of an open source frontier level model to develop customized AI applications to encode their institutional knowledge into an AI flywheel to automate and accelerate their business. Accenture is the first to adopt the new service to build custom Llama 3.1 models for both its own use and to assist clients seeking to deploy generative AI applications. NVIDIA NIMs accelerate and simplify model deployment. Companies across healthcare, energy, financial services, retail, transportation, and telecommunications are adopting NIMs, including Aramco, Lowe's, and Uber. AT&T realized 70% cost savings and 8 times latency reduction after moving into NIMs for generative AI, call transcription, and classification. Over 150 partners are embedding NIMs across every layer of the AI ecosystem. We announced NIM Agent Blueprints, a catalog of customizable reference applications that include a full suite of software for building and deploying enterprise generative AI applications. With NIM Agent Blueprints, enterprises can refine their AI applications over time, creating a data-driven AI flywheel. The first NIM Agent Blueprints include workloads for customer service, computer-aided drug discovery, and enterprise retrieval augmented generation. Our system integrators, technology solution providers, and system builders are bringing NVIDIA NIM Agent Blueprints to enterprises. NVIDIA NIM and NIM Agent Blueprints are available through the NVIDIA AI Enterprise Software Platform, which has great momentum. We expect our software, SaaS, and support revenue to approach a $2 billion annual run rate exiting this year, with NVIDIA AI Enterprise notably contributing to growth. Moving to gaming and AI PCs. Gaming revenue of $2.88 billion increased 9% sequentially and 16% year on year. We saw sequential growth in console, notebook, and desktop revenue, and demand is strong and growing, and channel inventory remains healthy. Every PC with RTX is an AI PC. RTX PCs can deliver up to 1,300 AI TOPS, and there are now over 200 RTX AI laptops designed from leading PC manufacturers. With 600 AI-powered applications and games and an installed base of 100 million devices, RTX is set to revolutionize consumer experiences with generative AI. NVIDIA ACE, a suite of generative AI technologies, is available for RTX AI PCs. Mega Break is the first game to use NVIDIA ACE, including our small language model, Minitron 4B, optimized on device inference. The NVIDIA gaming ecosystem continues to grow. Recently added RTX and DLSS titles include Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Dune Awakening, and Dragon Age: The Veilguard. The GeForce Now library continues to expand with total catalog size of over 2,000 titles, the most content of any cloud gaming service. Moving to pro visualization. Revenue of $454 million was up 6% sequentially and 20% year-on-year. Demand is being driven by AI and graphic use cases, including model fine-tuning and Omniverse-related workloads. Automotive and manufacturing were among the key industry verticals driving growth this quarter. Companies are racing to digitalize workflows to drive efficiency across their operations. The world's largest electronics manufacturer, Foxconn, is using Nvidia Omniverse to power digital twins of the physical plants that produce Nvidia Blackwell systems. And several large global enterprises, including Mercedes-Benz, signed multi-year contracts for Nvidia Omniverse Cloud to build industrial digital twins of factories. We announced new Nvidia USD NIMs and connectors to open Omniverse to new industries and enable developers to incorporate generative AI copilots and agents into USD workflows, accelerating their ability to build highly accurate virtual worlds. WPP is implementing USD NIM microservices in its generative AI-enabled content creation pipeline for customers, such as the Coca-Cola Company. Moving to automotive and robotics, revenue was $346 million, up 5% sequentially and up 37% year-on-year. Year-on-year growth was driven by the new customer ramps in self-driving platforms and increased demand for AI cockpit solutions. At the Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition Conference, Nvidia won the Autonomous Grand Challenge in the end-to-end driving at scale category, outperforming more than 400 entries worldwide. Boston Dynamics, BYD Electronics, Figure, Intrinsic, Siemens, Skilled AI, and Teradyne Robotics are using the Nvidia Isaac robotics platform for autonomous robot arms, humanoids, and mobile robots.
That's got to be a robot, no?
GAAP gross margins were 75.1%, and non-GAAP gross margins were 75.7%, down sequentially due to a higher mix of new products within data center and inventory provisions for low-yielding Blackwell material. Sequentially, GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses were up 12%, primarily reflecting higher compensation-related costs. Cash flow from operations was $14.5 billion. In Q2, we utilized cash of $7.4 billion towards shareholder returns in the form of share repurchases and cash dividends, reflecting the increase in dividend per share. Our board of directors recently approved a $50 billion share repurchase authorization to add to our remaining $7.5 billion of authorization at the end of Q2. Let me turn the outlook for the third quarter. Total revenue is expected to be $32.5 billion, plus or minus 2%. Our third quarter revenue outlook incorporates continued growth of our Hopper architecture and sampling of our Blackwell products. We expect Blackwell production ramp in Q4. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 74.4% and 75% respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. As our data center mix continues to shift to new products, we expect this trend to continue into the fourth quarter of fiscal 2025. For the full year, we expect gross margins to be in the mid-70% range. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses are expected to be approximately $4.3 billion and $3.0 billion, respectively. Full-year operating expenses are expected to grow in the mid to upper 40% range as we work on developing our next generation of products. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are expected to be about $350 million, including gains and losses from non-affiliated investments and publicly held equity securities. GAAP and non-GAAP tax rates are expected to be 17%, plus or minus 1%, excluding any discrete items. Further financial details are included in the CFO commentary and other information available on our IR website.
Honestly,
We are now going to open the call for questions. Operator, would you
Wait.
please help us and poll for questions?
Where's Jensen at? Like, get this lady a freaking
Thank
phone,
you.
bro. Get her a headset.
And at this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star and then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We will pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster.
Fix
and
your
as a
phone.
reminder, we ask that you please limit yourself to 1 question.
Like, dude, they sound like the AM radio station.
And your first question comes from the line of Vivek Arya with Bank of America Securities. Your line is open.
They sound worse than NPR. You know?
Thanks for taking my question. Jensen, you mentioned in the prepared comments that there's a change in the Blackwell GPU mask. I'm curious, are there any other incremental changes in back-end packaging or anything else? And I think related, you suggested that you could ship several $1 billion of Blackwell in Q4 despite a change in the design. Is it because all these issues will be solved by then? Just help us size what is the overall impact of any changes in Blackwell timing, what that means to your kind of revenue profile, and how are customers reacting to it?
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. The change to the mask is complete. There were no functional changes necessary. And so we're sampling functional samples of Blackwell, Grace Blackwell, in a variety of system configurations as we speak. There are something like 100 different types of Blackwell-based systems that are built that were shown at Computext. And we're enabling our ecosystem to start sampling those. The functionality of Blackwell is as it is, and we expect to start production in Q4.
And your next question comes from the line of Toshiya Hari with Goldman Sachs. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the question. Jensen, I had a relatively longer-term question. As you may know, there's a pretty heated debate in the market on your customers and customers' return on investment, and what that means for the sustainability of CapEx going forward. Internally at Nvidia, like what are you guys watching? What's on your dashboard as you try to gauge customer return and how that impacts CapEx? And then a quick follow-up maybe for Colette. I think your sovereign AI number for the full year went up maybe a couple billion. What's driving the improved outlook, and how should we think about fiscal 26? Thank you.
Thanks, Toshiya. First of all, when I said ship production in Q4, I mean shipping out. I don't mean starting to ship, but I don't mean starting production, but shipping out. On the longer term question, let's take a step back. And you've heard me say that we're going through 2 simultaneous platform transitions at the same time. The first one is transitioning from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. And the reason for that is because CPU scaling has been known to be slowing for some time. And it is slow to a crawl. And yet the amount of computing demand continues to grow quite significantly. You could maybe even estimate it to be doubling every single year. And so if we don't have a new approach, computing inflation would be driving up the cost for every company, and it would be driving up the energy consumption of data centers around the world. In fact, you're seeing that. And so the answer is accelerated computing. We know that accelerated computing, of course, speeds up applications. It also enables you to do computing at a much larger scale, for example, scientific simulations or database processing. But what that translates directly to is lower cost and lower energy consumed. And in fact, this week, there's a blog that came out that talked about a whole bunch of new libraries that we offer. And that's really the core of the first platform transition, going from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. And it's not unusual to see someone save 90% of their computing cost. And the reason for that is, of course, you just sped up an application 50x. You would expect the computing cost to decline quite significantly. The second
was enabled by accelerated computing because we drove down the cost of training large language models or training deep learning so incredibly that it is now possible to have gigantic scale models, multi-trillion parameter models, and pre-train it on just about the world's knowledge corpus, and let the model go figure out how to understand human language representation and how to codify knowledge into its neural networks and how to learn reasoning. And which caused the generative AI revolution. Now, generative AI, taking a step back about why it is that we went so deeply into it, is because it's not just a feature, it's not just a capability, it's a fundamental new way of doing software. Instead of human engineered algorithms, we now have data. We tell the AI, we tell the model, we tell the computer what are the expected answers, what are our previous observations, and then for it to figure out what the algorithm is, what's the function. It learns a universal, AI is a bit of a universal function approximator, and it learns the function. And so you could learn the function of almost anything, and anything that you have that's predictable, anything that has structure, anything that that you have previous examples of. And so now here we are with generative AI. It's a fundamental new form of computer science. It's affecting how every layer of computing is done, from CPU to GPU, from human engineered algorithms to machine learned algorithms, and the type of applications you could now develop and produce is fundamentally remarkable. And there are several things that are happening in generative AI. So the first thing that's happening is the frontier models are growing in quite substantial scale. And we're still all seeing the benefits of scaling. And whenever you double the size of a model, you also have to more than double the size of the data set to go train it. And so the amount of flops necessary in order to create that model goes up quadratically. And so it's not unusual, it's not unexpected to see that the next generation models could take 10, 20, 40 times more compute than last generation. So we have to continue to drive the generational performance up quite significantly so we can drive down the energy consumed and drive down the cost necessary to do it. So the first one is there are larger frontier models trained on more modalities, and surprisingly, there are more frontier model makers than last year. And so you have more on more on more. That's one of the dynamics going on in generative AI. The second is, although it's below the tip of the iceberg, what we see are ChatGPT, image generators. We see coding. We use generative AI for coding quite extensively here at Nvidia now. We of course have a lot of digital designers and things like that, but those are kind of the tip of the iceberg. What's below the iceberg are the largest computing systems in the world today, which are, and you've heard me talk about this in the past, which are recommender systems moving from CPUs. It's now moving from CPUs to generative AI. So recommender systems, ad generation, custom ad generation, targeting ads at very large scale and quite hyper targeting, search, and user generated content. These are all very large scale applications have now evolved to generative AI. Of course, the number of generative AI startups is generating tens of billions of dollars of cloud renting opportunities for our cloud partners, and sovereign AI. Countries that are now realizing that their data is their natural and national resource, and they have to use AI, build their own AI infrastructure so that they could have their own digital intelligence. Enterprise AI, as Colette mentioned earlier, is starting, and you might have seen our announcement that the world's leading IT companies are joining us to take the NVIDIA AI Enterprise platform to the world's enterprises. that the companies that we're talking to, so many of them are just so incredibly excited to drive more productivity out of their company, and then general robotics. The big transformation last year as we are able to now learn physical AI from watching video and human demonstration and synthetic data generation from reinforcement learning from systems like Omniverse. We are now able to work with just about every robotics companies now to start building general robotics. And so you can see that there are just so many different directions that generative AI is going. And so we're actually seeing the momentum of generative AI accelerating.
And Toshiya, to answer your question regarding sovereign AI and our goals in terms of growth, in terms of revenue, it certainly is a unique and growing opportunity, something that surfaced with generative AI and the desires of countries around the world to have their own generative AI that would be able to incorporate their own language, incorporate their own culture, incorporate their own data in that country. So more and more excitement around these models and what they can be specific for those countries. So yes, we are seeing some growth opportunity in front of us.
And your next question comes from the line of Joe Moore with Morgan Stanley. Your line is open.
Great, thank you. Jensen, in the press release, you talked about Blackwell anticipation being incredible, but it seems like Hopper demand is also really strong. I mean, you're guiding for a very strong quarter without Blackwell in October. So, how long do you see sort of coexisting strong demand for both? And can you talk about the transition to Blackwell? Do you see people intermixing clusters? Do you think most of the Blackwell activity is new clusters? Just some sense of what that transition looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. The demand for Hopper is really strong. And it's true, the demand for Blackwell is incredible. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is if you just look at the world's cloud service providers and the amount of GPU capacity they have available, it's basically none. And the reason for that is because they're either being deployed internally for accelerating their own workloads, data processing, for example. Data processing, we hardly ever talk about it because it's mundane. It's not very cool because it doesn't generate a picture or generate words. But almost every single company in the world processes data in the background. And NVIDIA's GPUs are the only accelerators on the planet that process and accelerate data. SQL data, Pandas data science toolkits like Pandas, and the new one, Polars. These are the most popular data processing platforms in the world. And aside from CPUs, which, as I've mentioned before, really running out of steam, NVIDIA's accelerated computing is really the only way to get boosting performance out of that. And so that's number one, is the number one use case long before generative AI came along is the migration of applications one after another to accelerated computing. The second is, of course, the rentals. They're renting capacity to model makers, they're renting it to startup companies. And a generative AI company spends the vast majority of their invested capital into infrastructure so that they could use an AI to help them create products. And so these companies need it now. They just simply can't afford, you just raise money, they want you to put it to use now. You have processing that you have to do. You can't do it next year, you got to do it today. And so there's a fair, that's one reason. The second reason for Hopper demand right now is because of the race to the next plateau. The first person to the next plateau gets to introduce a revolutionary level of AI. The second person who gets there is incrementally, better or about the same. And so the ability to systematically and consistently race to the next plateau and be the first one there It's how you establish leadership. Nvidia is constantly doing that, and we show that to the world in the GPUs we make and the AI factories that we make, the networking systems that we make, the SoCs we create. I mean, we want to set the pace. We want to be consistently the world's best, and that's the reason why we drive ourselves so hard. Of course, we also want to see our dreams come true, and all of the capabilities that we imagine in the future and the benefits that we can bring to society. We want to see all that come true, and so these model makers are the same. They're of course they want to be the world's best. They want to be the world's first, and although Blackwell will start shipping out in billions of dollars at the end of this year, the standing up of the capacity is still probably weeks and a month or so away. And so between now and then is a lot of generative AI market dynamic. And so everybody is just really in a hurry. It's either operational reasons that they need it. They need accelerated computing. They don't want to build any more general purpose computing infrastructure. And even Hopper, of course, H200 is state of the art. Hopper, if you have a choice between building CPU infrastructure right now for business or Hopper infrastructure for business right now, that decision is relatively clear. And so I think people are just clamoring to transition the $1 trillion of established installed infrastructure to a modern infrastructure, and Hopper is state of the art.
And your next question comes from the line of Matt Ramsey with TD Cowen. Your line is open.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Jensen, I wanted to kind of circle back to an earlier question about the debate that investors are having about, I don't know, the ROI on all of this CapEx. And hopefully this question and the distinction will make some sense. But what I'm having discussions about is with like the percentage of folks that you see that are spending all of this money and looking to sort of push the frontier towards AGI convergence and, as you just said, a new plateau in capability, and they're going to spend regardless to get to that level of capability because it opens up so many doors for the industry and for their company, versus customers that are really, really focused today on CapEx versus ROI. I don't know if that distinction makes sense. I'm just trying to get a sense of how you're seeing the priorities of people that are putting the dollars in the ground on this new technology and what their priorities are and their time frames are for that investment. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. The people who are investing in NVIDIA infrastructure are getting returns on it right away. It's the best ROI computing infrastructure investment you can make today. And so one way to think through it, probably the easiest way to think through it is just go back to first principles. You have $1 trillion worth of general purpose computing infrastructure, and the question is, do you want to build more of that or not? And for every $1 billion worth of general purpose CPU-based infrastructure that you stand up, you probably rent it for less than $1 billion. And so, because it's commoditized, there's already $1 trillion on the ground. What's the point of getting more? And so the people who are clamoring to get this infrastructure, one, when they build out Hopper-based infrastructure and soon Blackwell-based infrastructure, they start saving money. That's tremendous return on investment. And the reason why they start saving money is because data processing saves money. Data processing is probably just a giant part of it already. And so recommender systems save money. So on and so forth, okay? And so you start saving money. The second thing is everything you stand up are going to get rented because so many companies are being founded to create generative AI, and so your capacity gets rented right away, and the return on investment of that is really good. And then the third reason is your own business. You want to either create the next frontier yourself or your own internet services benefit from a next generation ad system or a next generation recommender system or a next generation search system. So for your own services, for your own stores, for your own user generated content, social media platforms, for your own services, generative AI is also a fast ROI. And so there's a lot of ways you could think through it, but at the core, it's because it is the best computing infrastructure you could put in the ground today. The world of general purpose computing is shifting to accelerated computing. The world of human engineered software is moving to generative AI software. If you were to build infrastructure to modernize your cloud and your data centers, build it with accelerated computing and NVIDIA. That's the best way to do it.
And your next question comes from the line of Timothy Arcuri with UBS. Your line is open.
Thanks a lot. I had a question on the shape of the revenue growth, both near and longer term. I know, Colette, you did increase OpEx for the year, and if I look at the increase in your purchase commitments and your supply obligations, that's also quite bullish. On the other hand, there's some school of thought that not that many customers really seem ready for liquid cooling, and I do recognize that some of these racks can be air cooled. But Jensen, is that something to consider, sort of on the shape of how Blackwell is going to ramp? And then I guess when you look beyond next year, which is obviously going to be a great year, and you look into 26, do you worry about any other gating factors like, say, the power supply chain, or at some point models start to get smaller? I'm just wondering if you can speak to that. Thanks.
I'm going to work backwards. I really appreciate the question, Tim. So remember, the world is moving from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. And the world builds about $1 trillion worth of data centers. $1 trillion worth of data centers in a few years will be all accelerated computing. In the past, no GPUs are in data centers, just CPUs. In the future, every single data center will have GPUs. And the reason for that is very clear, because we need to accelerate workloads so that we can continue to be sustainable, continue to drive down the cost of computing, so that when we do more computing, we don't experience computing inflation. Second, we need GPUs for a new computing model called generative AI that we can all acknowledge is going to be quite transformative to the future of computing. And so I think working backwards, the way to think about that is the next $1 trillion of the world's infrastructure will clearly be different than the last trillion, and it'll be vastly accelerated. With respect to the shape of our ramp, we offer multiple configurations of Blackwell. Blackwell comes in either a Blackwell Classic, if you will, that uses the HGX form factor that we pioneered with Volta, and I think it was Volta. And so we've been shipping the HGX form factor for some time. It is air cooled. The Grace Blackwell is liquid cooled. However, the number of data centers that want to go liquid cooled is quite significant. And the reason for that is because we can, in a liquid cooled data center, in any data center, power limited data center, whatever size data center you choose, you could install and deploy anywhere from 3 to 5 times the AI throughput compared to the past. And so liquid cooling is cheaper. Liquid cooling, our TCO is better, and liquid cooling allows you to have the benefit of this capability we call NVLink, which allows us to expand it to 72 Grace Blackwell packages, which has essentially 144 GPUs. And so imagine 144 GPUs connected in NVLink, and that we're increasingly showing you the benefits of that. And the next click is obviously very low latency, very high throughput, large language model inference. And the large NVLink domain is going to be a game changer for that. And so I think people are very comfortable deploying both. And so almost every CSP we're working with are deploying some of both. And so I'm pretty confident that we'll ramp it up just fine. Your second question out of the third is looking forward. Yeah, next year is going to be a great year. We expect to grow our data center business quite significantly next year. Blackwell is going to be a complete game changer for the industry, and Blackwell is going to carry into the following year. And as I mentioned earlier, working backwards from first principles, remember that computing is going through two platform transitions at the same time, and that's just really, really important to keep your head on, your mind focused on, which is general purpose computing is shifting to accelerated computing, and human engineered software is going to transition to generative AI or artificial intelligence learned software. Okay.
And your next question comes from the line of Stacy Raskin with Bernstein Research. Your line is open.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my questions. I have two short questions for Colette. The first, several $1 billion of Blackwell revenue in Q4. Like, is that additive? You said you expected Hopper demand to strengthen in the second half. Does that mean Hopper strengthens Q3 to Q4 as well, on top of Blackwell adding several $1 billion? And the second question on gross margins, if I have mid-70s for the year, depending where I want to draw that, if I have 75 for the year, I'd be something like 71 to 72 for Q4, somewhere in that range. Is that the kind of exit rate for gross margins that you're expecting? And how should we think about the drivers of gross margin evolution into next year as Blackwell ramps? And I mean, hopefully, I guess the yields and the inventory reserves and everything come up.
Yes, so Stacy, let's first take your question that you had about Hopper and Blackwell. So we believe our Hopper will continue to grow into the second half. We have many new products for Hopper, our existing products for Hopper, that we believe will start continuing to ramp in the next quarters, including our Q3 and those new products moving to Q4. So let's say Hopper therefore versus H1 is a growth opportunity for that. Additionally, we have the Blackwell on top of that, and the Blackwell starting of ramping in Q4. So hope that helps you on those two pieces. Your second piece is in terms of on our gross margin. We provided gross margin for our Q3. We provided our gross margin on a non-GAAP at about 75. We'll work with all the different transitions that we're going through, but we do believe we can do that 75 in Q3. We provided that we're still on track for the full year, also in the mid-70s or approximately the 75. So we're going to see some slight difference possibly in Q4, again, with our transitions and the different cost structures that we have on our new product introductions. However, I'm not in the same number that you are there. We don't have exactly guidance, but I do believe you're lower than where we are.
And your next question comes from the line of Ben Reitzes with Melius. Your line is open.
Yeah, hey, thanks a lot for the question, Jensen and Colette. I wanted to ask about the geographies. There was the 10Q that came out, and the United States was down sequentially, while several Asian geographies were up a lot sequentially. Just wondering what the dynamics are there. And obviously China did very well. You mentioned it in your remarks. What are the puts and takes? And then I just wanted to clarify from Stacy's question if that means the sequential overall revenue growth rates for the company accelerate in the fourth quarter, given all those favorable revenue dynamics. Thanks.
Let me talk about a bit in terms of our disclosure in terms of the 10Q, a required disclosure in a choice of geographies. Very challenging sometimes to create that right disclosure, as we have to come up with one key piece. Pieces in terms of in terms of who we sell to and or specifically who we invoice to. And so what you're seeing in terms of there is who we invoice. That's not necessarily where the product will eventually be and where it may even travel to the end customer. These are just moving to our OEMs, our ODMs, and our system integrators for the most part across our product portfolio. So what you're seeing there is sometimes just a swift shift in terms of who they are using to complete their full configuration before those things are going into the data center, going into notebooks and those pieces of it. And that shift happens from time to time. But yes, our China number there, our invoicing to China, keep in mind that is incorporating both gaming, also data center, also automotive in those numbers that we have. Going back to your statement in regarding gross margin, and also what we're seeing in terms of what we're looking at for Hopper and Blackwell in terms of revenue. Hopper will continue to grow in the second half. Will continue to grow from what we are currently seeing. During determining that exact mix in each Q3 and Q4, we don't have here. We are not here to guide yet in terms of Q4. But we do see right now the demand expectations. We do see the visibility that will be a growth opportunity in Q4. On top of that, we will have our Blackwell architecture.
And your next question comes from the line of CJ Muse with Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is open.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the question. You've embarked on a remarkable annual product cadence with challenges only likely becoming more and more given rising complexity and a reticle limit advanced package world. So curious, if you take a step back, how does this backdrop alter your thinking around potentially greater vertical integration, supply chain partnerships, and then thinking through consequential impact to your margin profile? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Let's see. I think the answer to your first question is that the reason why our velocity is so high is simultaneously because the complexity of the model is growing, and we want to continue to drive its cost down. It's growing, so we want to continue to increase its scale. And we believe that by continuing to scale the AI models, that will reach a level of extraordinary usefulness, and that it would open up, realize the next industrial revolution. We believe it, and so we're going to drive ourselves really hard to continue to go up that scale. We have the ability, fairly uniquely, to integrate, to design an AI factory because we have all the parts. It's not possible to come up with a new AI factory every year unless you have all the parts. And so we have next year, we're going to ship a lot more CPUs than we've ever had in the history of our company. More GPUs, of course, but also NVLink switches, CX DPUs, ConnectX CPU for East and West, Bluefield DPUs for North and South, and data and storage processing, to InfiniBand for supercomputing centers, to Ethernet, which is a brand new product for us, which is well on its way to becoming a multi-billion-dollar business to bring AI to Ethernet. And so the fact that we could build, we have access to all of this. We have one architectural stack, as you know. It allows us to introduce new capabilities to the market, as we complete it. Otherwise, what happens is you ship these parts, you go find customers to sell it to, and then somebody's got to build up an AI factory. And the AI factory's got a mountain of software. And so it's not about who integrates it. We love the fact that our supply chain is disintegrated in the sense that we could service, Quanta, Foxconn, HP, Dell, Lenovo, Supermicro. We used to be able to service ZT. They were recently purchased, and so on and so forth. And so the number of ecosystem partners that we have, Gigabyte, ASUS, the number of ecosystem partners that we have, that allows them to take our architecture, which all works, but integrated in a bespoke way into all of the world's cloud service providers, enterprise data centers, the scale and reach necessary from our ODMs and our integrator supply chain is vast and gigantic because the world is huge. And so that part we don't want to do, and we're not good at doing. And but we know how to design the AI infrastructure, provide it the way that customers will like it, and lets the ecosystem integrate it. Well, yeah. So, anyways, that's the reason why.
And your final question comes from the line of Aaron Rakers with Wells Fargo. Your line is open.
Yes, thanks for taking the question. I wanted to go back into the Blackwell product cycle. One of the questions that we tend to get asked is how you see the rack scale system mix dynamic as you think about leveraging NVLink, you think about GB, NVL72, and how that go-to-market, dynamic looks, as far as the Blackwell product cycle. I guess put succinctly, how do you see that mix of rack scale systems as we start to think about the Blackwell cycle playing out?
Yeah, Aaron, thanks. The Blackwell rack system, it's designed and architected as a rack, but it's sold in disaggregated system components. We don't sell the whole rack. And the reason for that is because everybody's rack's a little different, surprisingly. Some of them are OCP standards, some of them are not, some of them are enterprise. And the power limits for everybody could be a little different. Choice of CDUs, the choice of power bus bars, the configuration and integration into people's data centers, all different. And so the way we designed it, we architected the whole rack. The software is going to work perfectly across the whole rack. And then we provide the system components. Like, for example, the CPU and GPU compute board is then integrated into an MGX. It's a modular system architecture. MGX is completely ingenious. And we have MGX ODMs and integrators and OEMs all over the planet. And so just about, any configuration you would like, where you would like that 3,000-pound rack to be delivered, it's got to be close to, it has to be integrated and assembled close to the data center because it's fairly heavy. And so everything from the supply chain, from the moment that we ship the GPU, CPUs, the switches, the NICs, from that point forward, the integration is done quite close to the location of the CSPs and the locations of the data centers. And so you can imagine how many data centers in the world there are and how many logistics hubs we've scaled out to with our ODM partners. And so I think that because we show it as one rack and because it's always rendered that way and shown that way, we might have left the impression that we're doing the integration. Our customers hate that we do integration. The supply chain hates us doing integration. They want to do the integration. That's their value added. There's a final design in, if you will. It's not quite as simple as shimmy into a data center, but that design fit in is really complicated. And so the design fit in, the installation, the bring up, the repair and replace, that entire cycle is done all over the world. And we have a sprawling network of ODM and OEM partners that does this incredibly well. So integration is not the reason why we're doing racks. It's the anti-reason of doing it. The way we don't want to be an integrator, we want to be a technology provider.
And I will now turn the call back over to Jensen Huang for closing remarks.
Thank you. Let me make a couple of comments that I made earlier again. The data center worldwide are in full steam to modernize the entire computing stack with accelerated computing and generative AI. Hopper demand remains strong, and the anticipation for Blackwell is incredible. Let me highlight the top 5 things. The top 5 things of our company. Accelerated computing has reached a tipping point. CPU scaling slows. Developers must accelerate everything possible. Accelerated computing starts with CUDA-X libraries. New libraries open new markets for NVIDIA. We released many new libraries, including CUDA-accelerated Polars, Pandas, and Spark, the leading data science and data processing libraries. cuVS for vector databases. This is incredibly hot right now. Ariel and Chiona for 5G wireless base station. A whole world of data centers that we can go into now. Parabricks for gene sequencing, and AlphaFold 2 for protein structure prediction is now CUDA accelerated. We are at the beginning of our journey to modernize $1 trillion worth of data centers from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. That's number one. Number two, Blackwell is a step function leap over Hopper. Blackwell is an AI infrastructure platform, not just a GPU. Also happens to be the name of our GPU, but it's an AI infrastructure platform. As we reveal more of Blackwell and sample systems to our partners and customers, the extent of Blackwell's leap becomes clear. The Blackwell vision took nearly 5 years and 7 one-of-a-kind chips to realize. The Grace CPU, the Blackwell dual GPU in a CoWoS package, ConnectX DPU for east-west traffic, Bluefield DPU for north-south and storage traffic, NVLink switch for all-to-all GPU communications, and Quantum and Spectrum X for both InfiniBand and Ethernet can support the massive burst traffic of AI. Blackwell AI factories are building-sized computers. NVIDIA designed and optimized the Blackwell platform full stack, end-to-end, from chips, systems, networking, even structured cables, power and cooling, and mountains of software to make it fast for customers to build AI factories. These are very capital-intensive infrastructures. Customers want to deploy it as soon as they get their hands on the equipment and deliver the best performance and TCO. Blackwell provides 3 to 5 times more AI throughput in a power-limited data center than Hopper. The third is NVLink. This is a very big deal. With its all-to-all GPU switch is game-changing. The Blackwell system lets us connect 144 GPUs in 72 GB200 packages into one NVLink domain, with an aggregate NVLink bandwidth of 259 terabytes per second in one rack. Just put that in perspective, that's about 10 times higher than Hopper. 259 terabytes per second kind of makes sense because you need to boost the training of multi-trillion parameter models on trillions of tokens. And so that natural amount of data needs to be moved around from GPU to GPU. For inference, NVLink is vital for low latency, high throughput, large language model token generation. We now have 3 networking platforms: NVLink for GPU scale up, Quantum InfiniBand for supercomputing and dedicated AI factories, and Spectrum X for AI on Ethernet. NVIDIA's networking footprint is much bigger than before. Generative AI momentum is accelerating. Generative AI frontier model makers are racing to scale to the next AI plateau to increase model safety and IQ. We're also scaling to understand more modalities, from text, images, and video to 3D, physics, chemistry, and biology. Chatbots, coding AIs, and image generators are growing fast, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. Internet services are deploying generative AI for large-scale recommenders, ad targeting, and search systems. AI startups are consuming tens of billions of dollars yearly of CSP's cloud capacity, and countries are recognizing the importance of AI and investing in sovereign AI infrastructure. And NVIDIA AI and NVIDIA Omniverse is opening up the next era of AI, general robotics. And now the enterprise AI wave has started, and we're poised to help companies transform their businesses. The NVIDIA AI Enterprise Platform consists of NeMo, NIMs, NIM agent blueprints, and AI Foundry that our ecosystem partners, the world-leading IT companies, used to help companies customize AI models and build bespoke AI applications. Enterprises can then deploy on NVIDIA AI Enterprise Runtime. And at $4,500 per GPU per year, NVIDIA AI Enterprise is an exceptional value for deploying AI anywhere. And for NVIDIA's software TAM can be significant as the CUDA-compatible GPU installed base grows from millions to tens of millions. And as Colette mentioned, NVIDIA software will exit the year at a $2 billion run rate. Thank you all for joining us today.
And ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's call, and we thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect.
All right, guys. So a lot of stuff to talk about, man. Dude, I'm sorry, Jensen, and I know the stock was going up at the end. Too long-winded for me. Like, listen, I know your stock's down. You might think that you should just keep on talking and it'll go up. I'm glad he closed it when he did. I felt like if he was going to keep talking, it was going to hurt the stock price, right? A couple things here, though. Number one, like, look, guys, like, I get it. We got a lot of gamblers is what I'm going to call you guys. No offense to you. It's all love, but y'all are straight up gambling if you're super hella emotional about this. Why? Because we haven't even broken down under the low of the last, like, 3 weeks, you know? Like, we haven't even gotten really anywhere near the low of the last 3 weeks. Nvidia moves a lot, you know? Like this is, like, here's an hourly chart. Nvidia's still up pretty decent amount. People are acting like Nvidia's just crashing, and it's just not. It's currently at almost 118 a share. It's definitely down from this. Like, the other thing people have to understand is that this is how it goes. If you're trading so large to where you're freaking out from this report, you need to scale down your size, in my opinion. Like, you're just trading too large. It's unnecessary to hold, like, that big of size. Like, earnings, like, there's a very famous quote, and it goes, when in doubt, zoom out, right? And when you do zoom out on Nvidia here, like, people are literally looking at this, and they're saying it's the end of the world. It's a market crash. And again, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Generally, the earnings move plays out over a couple weeks. Earnings very famously drop really big, cause a lot of people to get stopped out, and then rebound with a vengeance. It's happened to me a lot. It happens to lots of investors, traders, if you try to pay too much attention to short-term price action. The other thing is that, I've said this many times, if Nvidia can continue to just go sideways, it's okay. If Nvidia, I'm not expecting it to continue ripping up, breaking highs. Nvidia's up almost 1,000% in a few years. Right? So it's not a reasonable expectation to expect Nvidia to just churn up and break highs every time it has a good quarter. Again, if you think that, you're not really understanding how these go, right? Like, it's not going to continue to go up forever and break highs. And again, we got some people, like I see Not So Boring here, saying it's manipulation. Listen, every time a stock has good earnings, the stock's not going to go up. Every time a stock has bad earnings, the stock's not going to go down. If it was really like that, again, I've said this 1,000 times, I'll say it again. If it was really like that, it would be an infinite money glitch. Everybody would just sit around, they wait for good earnings, they'd click buy and they get rich, right? Or they wait for bad earnings, they click sell and they get rich. It's not as easy. The moves are preceding the earnings report or after the earnings report. You know, they're not always within the first 30 minutes after the report. And again, for you to even think that means that you don't have a lot of experience. No offense to you. It's all love. It's all good. I'm not even saying this report looks good for Nvidia, right? I'm not saying this report is good. It definitely is not good. It's down 8%. I mean, it's not great, but it doesn't mean there's manipulation going on. The market is super nuanced and super difficult to gauge. Like, people are taking profit ahead of time, leading in. There's a big famous quote, buy the rumor, sell the news. You know, like, there's a lot of ways you could look at it. The point is, every time a stock has good earnings, it's not going to go up. That's not a reasonable expectation for markets. Nobody would ever do anything else. They just sit around and wait for good earnings and click buy and ride off into the sunset rich. Like, that's just never, it's not sustainable. It never would happen. And it's just not that simple. The stock market is vastly more complex than that. And, yeah, again, it's all love, but for you to think that's how it went shows that you don't really understand that much about earnings, and that's okay. You know, it's all right, bro. Just keep learning. It's all good. It's all love here. With that said, though, guys, again, we had almost 6,000 people watching this live stream. I appreciate the love. Thanks so much. We've grown by, almost 1,000 subscribers today. So thank you so much. I appreciate the love. I really do. If you want to check out one of my sponsors, remember, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I might be wildly wrong about anything and everything I say. I'm not an investment professional. Don't sue me. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose. And if you copy somebody or try to follow somebody called beginner trading, it's your own fault if you lose. No offense to you. Check out our sponsors. Check out TopStep. TopStep, great platform. They have no PDT rule in futures. You can day trade. Most pro day traders trade futures. You can day trade the S&P, the NASDAQ. If you look at the S&P and NASDAQ today, you can see it looks very similar to Nvidia. Here's Nvidia on the left, and then here's the QQQ, or here's the NASDAQ futures contract that you can trade in futures right here. You'll notice they look virtually identical. You zoom in here, they look virtually identical, right? And so again, look, this is really what you want to pay attention to. Here's the big move, but yeah. Again, you zoom in here, it's literally the same price action. And so again, you can day trade this right side, no PDT run futures. TopStep gives you a demo. They test your skill with a demo account instead of risking thousands, like most new traders end up losing thousands of dollars. I know I did. You can try a funded account program. They give you a demo first. And if you win on that demo and you beat their profit target without hitting their max loss, the base one, you got to make 3K without losing 2K with a 50K demo. If you do that successfully while following their rules, they fund you 50K. And then if you build up profit, there's a 90% split. You can withdraw and fund your own account. But if you lose, you're out $49 a month. It's not the end of the world. It's a genuine way to limit your risk if you want to learn to day trade instead of buying all these crazy courses and risking thousands of dollars of your own money. In my opinion, that just doesn't make sense, right? And in the futures market, you can day trade the S&P, the NASDAQ, gold, some currencies. Patterns are there. They're very similar to blue chip stock patterns. If you want to check it out, here's the link. Again, they are a sponsor. They pay me money. I'm definitely biased in their favor because they pay me money, 100%. Again, we also had some other people here talking about how I'm just super emotional from Nvidia. Listen, I'm not in anything heavy enough to where normal, like regular swings like Nvidia's range are going to make me emotional. Like, I'm really not. I don't take that big of size in anything. I'm usually pretty small trader, and so I just don't need to take big swings like that. That's usually just gambling nature. I'm just not about that. And so, again, be smart. Tomorrow, guys, with all of that said and out the way, I'm not saying we don't crash. I don't know if we crash or not. What I will say is tomorrow GDP data drops at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. It is a wildly influential report. The last one was called the initial estimate. It came in at 2.8%. When a lot of people are pushing that we're in a recession or whatever, GDP showed up at almost 3%. It's not really the sign of a recession, but that's the least accurate gauge. That's the least accurate look in the quarter, right? The next one we get tomorrow at 8:30 is called the first revision report. Massively influential, incredibly important. And then Friday we got the personal consumption expenditure index. Specifically, you want to look at core PCE on Friday. It's the Fed's preferred inflation metric. So if you want to see where inflation is at, pay attention to this live stream on Friday. If you want to see where GDP is at in terms of recession fears, pay attention to this channel tomorrow at 8:30. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. I appreciate all the love. Thanks so much. And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Y'all be good. We'll be back tomorrow bright and early. 8:30 GDP data comes out. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. And yeah, y'all be good.